Last time, we defeated the final boss of the Anna Smiles route, completing the story of Pokemon Reborn. 2 episodes before that, we had defeated the final boss of Lynn's route. I said in that episode that the final boss was the hardest sequence in the game, and Anna's final boss sequence essentially occupies that same difficulty slot. What I didn't tell you is that my top 5 list of most difficult sequences in the game was only for sequences that were mandatory to beat the game, because the final bosses don't hold a candle to what is optional. Where do you go to attempt something even harder than the final bosses, harder than anything else in the entire game? Where else? The nightclub. It is when we completed the Jirachi quest and Shay joined the party at the nightclub did someone else join it. That person is to the left of Casbot, and her name is Casbot. Real Casbot, she asserts. The other one is fake. And this real Casbot introduces you to the undoubtedly most difficult task to overcome in Pokemon Reborn, the Rush Challenge, or as she kindly dumbs down, the Boss Rush. A challenge I did not even get close to doing when I beat the game before. A challenge I believed back then was impossible and a meme. A challenge that has both interested and terrified me as I approach this episode. Let's answer the pertinent question. What is the Boss Rush? It is the ultimate gauntlet, in which you are expected to defeat every gym leader in a row, and you must do so with the exact same team for every fight. Yes, it is that fucked up. And when I first attempted this on the file in which I couldn't beat the hardest fights in the game without items in battle, I concluded I would never do this. Let me clarify. You get healed after every fight. So it's not like the final bosses where you have to make it through the whole thing on the same health bars. Still, I used to think that it was impossible, thinking the game forced you to dig through the boss rush to learn what each enemy team looked like. This was completely wrong. There is a drawback to doing all of the theme teams as they appear. If you did, then that would mean you'd finally do Shades when he arrived and see a team he has called Boss Rush. You wouldn't think much of that name unless you looked at another gym leader's teams now and find they also now have a team named Boss Rush. So there you go. The theme teams become your proving grounds for the 6 battle-hardened Pokemon you want to take on the Herculean task of defeating 108 opponents. So, what 6 Pokemon am I going to use? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This entire episode will be dedicated to the suffering I endured attempting this hellish challenge. There's something I want to point out first. Of course, in order to attempt something of the caliber of the Boss Rush, I absolutely had to return to the save file that I beat Lynn's final boss with, the one that did everything in the game and has all of the resources I possibly can have. At the same time, I also reverted back to version 19.0 of Reborn. Why? Well, it comes down to the testing I had already done, which was actually quite a while ago, back when the Boss Rush first became available for me at the end of episode 26. Of course, that was before I updated my version for episode 33, and though I would definitely like some of the quality of life features in 19.5, I was deathly afraid of my testing becoming obsolete because something was tweaked in the Boss Rush or the AI decision making. That brings me to my first team idea. My tried and true Elite Four team: Houndoom, Vanillux, Mawile, Drampa, Slowbro, and Camerupt. I had almost no confidence they would actually do it. At first, they did seem to give me decent results. They could defeat the first 6 or 7 opponents, and I wasn't too worried about those fights. But then I tried Samson. Samson opens his fight with a Breloom. It destroyed my entire team. This brings into focus the point about the Boss Rush. If there's even one gym leader that your team cannot beat, then that team cannot beat the boss rush. So, my regulars were out. But that's fine, because I had hope in the other strategies I planned. The first one I put together and tried is a team I call Triple Core. Why is it called that? Maybe you've heard the term Sand Core, referring to at least two Pokemon where one sets up a weather effect, in this case Sandstorm, and the others make use of it, probably often using the rush abilities that double their speed under that weather. So I put three weathers together into one team. The obvious thing about this boss rush is that you need to be able to cover every single type in Pokemon, and I tried to construct a team that used Hail, Rain, and Sandstorm and sweep down each team according to whichever core was best suited to them. The three cores started with Alolan Ninetales and Alolan Sandslash. Sandslash had Slush Rush, while Ninetales had Snow Warning, and would always be up front to start Aurora Veil since that would always be helpful to have. Second, Pelipper and Kingdra. Same story here. Drizzle and Swift Swim, with Kingdra being tough and balanced, being able to tank and hit with the same efficiency. Finally, Gigalith and Excadrill. Sandstream and Rush, definitely a more physical attacker in Excadrill. So I tested the team. Not only was it more inconsistent at the fights than my previous familiar team, I tried Samson again, and the exact same thing happened as my Elite Four team. Breloom beat them all pretty much on its own. So that was that. Another team idea down the drain. At that point, I really only had one idea left, which was actually something someone mentioned during this series in my comments. It was also an idea we just saw being used last episode, because it comes down to a question. What does Pokemon Reborn add to the standard formula of Pokemon battling? The field effect system. It was the field effects that made each team in this boss rush monstrous to take down with a simple weather team. It doesn't matter if you have the type advantage. Usually the field effect undid that advantage, and what do you have now? Probably a pretty squishy sweeper Pokemon that is in way over its head. That's when I learned something key to winning this boss rush. If at all possible, you have to make the field effect to your advantage. So I set out to make a team that could do both that and also use the one weather I didn't include in Triple Core. Sun. The goal of this team is to set up grassy terrain, unless it or another suitable field effect is already there, and then setting the grass on fire, putting the fight on Burning Field. At that point, with Sun up in the sky and Burning Field below, fire attacks start doing crazy damage, while simultaneously damaging most of the opponents with the field itself, and most importantly, stripping away the advantage every opponent team gets by getting to pick their field effect. That leads me to the actual team that I constructed for this purpose, starting with the Pokemon that has Drought to start the Sun, who is also my Mega Evolution, Mega Charizard Y. I really enjoy this pick for Mega and Drought user. As a Mega, Charizard is extremely powerful and quite fast, and having Drought activate only after he Megas has quite a few perks. For one, it means that I can hold it off for when I need it rather than it activating all the time, and I can surpass most all other opposing weather setters since theirs will go off first. No dealing with annoying speed issues here. Charizard, as well as the rest of this team, also boasts a moveset that is 100% static. The moves I put on him and the others are all guaranteed necessary. I'll explain why that is in a few minutes. Those moves for Charizard are Dragon Pulse, Protect, Solar Beam, and Heat Wave. It's that last one that needs some explanation up front. Why Heat Wave and not Flamethrower? Because Flamethrower does not transform field effects into Burning Field, and Heat Wave does. For that reason, I have to use Heat Wave to even start the strategy of burning grassy terrain. But then again, I can't start burning grass if there is no grass. That's why we have Jumpluff. I already alluded to the point that this team contains the final core that I didn't use in Triple Core, and Jumpluff's ability completes that core. Chlorophyll. With that ability doubling her speed, opponents will have basically no way of stopping her from setting up grassy terrain. I want to point out this is a different jump bluff than the one I've used earlier in this series, solely because of that move. Grassy terrain is an egg move, necessitating a new jump bluff, which also boasts Sleep Powder, Giga Drain, and Sunny Day. Jump bluff sets up the grass, then usually will faint so that the grass can be ignited by someone else. The grass she sets up will also be around for 8 turns because of her holding Amplified Rock, which brings up a point I need to make. Burning grassy terrain only allows Burning Field to exist for the remaining duration of the grassy terrain timer. Once that ends, Burning Field will also fade, returning to the original field effect of the battle. So you may ask, is one use of grassy terrain enough? The answer is, not all the time. But I don't have another Pokemon with grassy terrain on this team. I do, however, have one more Pokemon that has the ability Chlorophyll and a way to create grassy fields. Sawsbuck. This is my sleeper pick, and Sawsbuck fits cleanly into this team and does things that the rest of the team cannot. He has a move that is otherwise pretty rare, Horn Leech, letting him use his high attack with a grass move and drain HP with it. That grass move can be Z-boosted into Bloom Doom, and in Reborn, Bloom Doom will create grassy terrain for 3 turns. That is a pretty short time frame to use it with, but Bloom Doom is mostly for situations where I intend to kill the target and then switch, rather than using it in Sawsbuck fainting. Along with that, he has coverage moves to make use of his attack further. Wild Charge, Jump Kick, and Feint Attack. But now we have to think more about who is doing the burning. Along with Charizard, the rest of my team is Fire type, and the first one joining these 3 is Houndoom. Yeah, I can't seem to get away from him, but why would I? He's perfect for this team, using Choice Scarf to allow him to outspeed the majority of Pokemon and burn up the field with Heat Wave. However, he does have Flamethrower in order to have a fire move with 100% accuracy. He still possesses both Dark Pulse and Destiny Bond too, which of course the latter of those has quite a bit of use in the situations where there is something just agonizingly impossible to deal with. Houndoom is good as a speedy choice for fire attacks, but what if he isn't powerful enough? That's why I brought Salazzle. The shiny Salazzle from ages ago is ready to burn the shit out of everything with her barely higher base special attack than Houndoom, but more importantly, choice specs. This means that Salazzle can be expected to do more than Houndoom as long as speed is not an issue. She also has the choice of Heat Wave or Flamethrower, but covers Fairy and Dragon too with Sludge Wave and Dragon Pulse. She is my slugger. If something I'm facing is durable, she's probably my best bet to blast through it. Then we have my last teammate, who actually is not one that can also burn grassy terrain. However, with how I've mentioned Samson destroying me twice in this episode already, I decided I needed something that absolutely says, fuck you, Samson. Talonflame. Talonflame is ridiculously good. In fact, uniquely good. Of course, owing all that to its unique ability, Gale Wings. It gives me options that no other Pokemon can give me. Need to kill something weak to flying? Acrobatics and Brave Bird boosted by Flying Gem will do it. Need to snipe down a low HP enemy? Full HP Talonflame can Acrobatics it, and do it again and again if needed. And then if nothing else, Talonflame can use Tailwind and double the rest of my team's speed as a last-ditch effort. With Talonflame, many annoying mop-up Pokemon become afterthoughts, and he can swing entire fights for me that would otherwise go nowhere. The final point to make is, like I said at the beginning, this team needs to be the exact same for every single battle in the boss rush. That includes team order. Whatever Pokemon is first will be first the entire time, and that would be Charizard. After that, Sawsbuck was second, then the rest would follow. This was the team I made. Its potential made it promising in my mind. So I went forth and began testing every gym leader boss rush team. And then I found that they were able to beat every team individually. Earlier I mentioned that every move on this team is required. I learned through this testing that each move I put on these teammates were necessary at least once. There was no room to change it. But that's okay. They could beat everyone. Wow, awesome! So the boss rush is solved. That is, until I began attempts at the boss rush and came to realize this team would never beat the boss rush. This may be massively deflating to hear, and trust me, it was incredibly deflating for me to admit, because let me tell you something. Yes, this team can beat every enemy team of the boss rush, something that my team of regulars and triple core could not do. But that doesn't mean that they did so confidently. In fact, there were several gym leaders who this team could only beat by the thinnest of margins. Because of what ended up happening, I had to make the decision that most of the attempts I made with this team have to be cut instead. Even though I have video proof of all of the boss rush teams being beaten by this team, and I was planning on explaining how this team could beat each one, it's now no longer pertinent, and this video is too long to include more from a failed team. Instead, I need to explain what was wrong, and why I gave up with this team. But let's first pretend I didn't set your expectations from the outset, and talk to Castbot to enter into the boss rush. Of course, you know who this all begins with, even the attendant says so. We begin the boss rush, starting with Julia. I'm going to give an example of the way I had created script videos. Short videos I recorded for a successful win against a gym leader that I would then watch while doing the real boss rush in order to know the exact steps to take to beat that opponent in the same way. For Julia though, right off the bat, there was a problem. It wouldn't always go the same way. Up front, like I said, is Charizard, but we're starting off against the electric leader using Galvantula. That Galvantula fires a Thunder and kills Charizard. If it hits. And there you go. On the very first move, whether or not Charizard gets hit entirely changes the battle's script. So I had to make two videos. One where Charizard got hit and died, or one where he dodged it and killed Galvantula. In the strong majority of cases, Galvantula hit Charizard and he went down. But he did so after Mega Evolving and setting up the Sun. From there, I don't bother setting up the grass yet. I simply use Houndoom to kill Galvantula, which would then bring out Julia's own ace, Mega Ampharos. I was using Salazzle here to hurt it, but sadly not kill with Dragon Pulse, and would often use that same move, or others, to kill her every time. Houndoom then returned to finish it with Dark Pulse, but then we get faced with one of those horrible Pokemon that basically laughs at everything I'm doing. Washing Machine Rotom. There go fire attacks, and it is immune to ground, which would be your other best way to beat Julia's team. But the sun is still in the sky. Rotom has one weakness, grass, and Sawsbuck can come out, go faster than it, and use Bloom Doom to immediately kill it and take the field advantage. Then came Magnezone, and we go to Houndoom to fire Heat Wave, and it missed. This was my script video, and it has a miss in it. Remember that for later. It still ignites the field, and Houndoom can survive Thunderbolt and land the next Heat Wave just fine to easily kill Magnezone. By now, the burning field has already exited, as Julia is sending out her most aggravating Pokemon, Alolan Raichu. Now that electric terrain is back, its Surge Surfer activates, doubling its speed, and now nothing I have is faster, not even Sawsbuck or Jumpluff under the sun. But there was one Pokemon I had who could attack it first. Talonflame. Brave Bird would deal a ton of damage, even though it was resisted, but then it would surf Talonflame down. Now you may think that Sawsbuck would be able to tank a move if he went out against it. You'd be right, except that Raichu has the Z Crystal to use Stoked Spark Surfer, which instantly kills Sawsbuck. Instead, I send out Jumpluff, which also makes Raichu use that move up, and now Sawsbuck is able to kill Raichu after surviving a Thunderbolt. This left one last Pokemon though, who is stupidly fast and powerful, Xurkitree. And it is only because Houndoom with a Choice Scarf can go first using Destiny Bond that I can beat it and win the fight. So there you go, a script to defeat Julia. So how did it go when I entered the boss rush for the first time? Well, you remember when we got to the point where Sawsbuck beat Rotom and then Houndoom went out against Magnezone? Well, now he didn't miss the Heat Wave and he kills Magnezone. And the script goes out the window. Xurkitree comes out first instead of Raichu, and I decided to sack Sawsbuck to it in order to kill with Destiny Bond with Houndoom. But now, we have no way of beating Raichu. The very first attempt at the boss rush ended in a loss against Julia. That does not bode well for my confidence in beating this entire challenge. I failed this way a second time before learning that in order to beat Julia, I instead have to Heat Wave Magnezone, then Houndoom stays, and still outspeed Xurkitree since it had a speed stage either way, and Houndoom can still go first. But he's locked onto Heat Wave, so I must hit a second one. And this is when the problems start to arise. I now have to use Heat Wave twice in a row to beat Julia, a move that misses 10% of the time. Apparently, missing the first one is okay, but definitely not the second one. That means the strategy is reliant on luck, marginally, and it begins to dawn on me what I'm getting myself into. This was how I was planning to get through each opponent of the boss rush, using a video off to the side that showed me the way I won each fight. Already, the video I recorded for Julia was useless. It had a flaw in it, where a luck event had to happen a certain way to replicate the win. Now, what if that luck event wasn't 10% likely? What if it was much bigger than that? And what if all of the fights had luck events to pass? Turns out, they almost all did. The boss rush progresses in the order that you battled the gym leaders throughout the game, meaning that after Julia, you'd face Florinia, a team you'd expect mine to do really well against. And that's true. For the most part, both Julia and Shelly never cause this team problems since fire is extremely good against them. But there are some gym leaders in this boss rush that were nearly insurmountable, where I used such thin strategies to win that if any of those luck events ever went wrong, then the entire fight and boss rush was lost. Things like Heat Wave missing, Jump Kick missing, opposing enemies not killing my Pokemon at the exact times they're supposed to because they miss moves like Rock Slide. And worst of all, crits. Crits ruin an attempt, and there's nothing I can do about it. And after practicing and testing all 18 gym leaders using this team, I found the one that was worse than every other one by a long shot. You may have several guesses on which one that was. You might jump directly to Amaria, the 16th opponent, and you can imagine how terrible it would be if a boss rush attempt ended at Amaria. Amaria was the first one I tested with this team, solely because of that expectation that she would be impossible. Funnily enough, she actually became one of the easiest and least lucky fights in the rush for one reason. I didn't have to ignite grassy terrain. I wanted to just use that, with Sunny Day and Solar Beam, to blast down her team. Some other gym leaders distinguished themselves too as being horrendous. Remember what I said about being terrible to lose on Amaria? Yeah, that problem was what I was facing with Hardy, the 17th opponent, who could end the entire rush because Rock Slide is evil. Evil not just because it can flinch me, but because it can miss. Miss when I needed to kill something so that I can put my next Pokemon back out on the field before the sun and grassy terrain timers ended. Another fight that was incredibly thin and terrible was Charlotte, The mirror match, in essence, in which I had to have so many exact moves not only hit, but give me good enough damage ranges. Yes, ranges. The purest form of RNG, which I did everything in my power to mitigate, but once you've given a Pokemon 252 EVs, 31 IVs, and a beneficial nature for their attacking stat, and maybe even a choice specs to boot, there is nothing more you can do. If you can only kill with a range, then you suffer with it. Which brings me to the gym leader, who ruins this team. Aya. Yeah, didn't expect her, I bet. Well, it all comes down to how horrible her poison team is, especially her very first Pokemon out, Nihilego, who on Swamp Field boosts its defenses by 1 stage, ingrains for leftovers recovery, and resists fire. This single Ultra Beast ruined the boss rush. Why? Here was the strategy I was trying to do. First off, Nihilego is just faster than Charizard, so Charizard has to protect first turn or he will probably die. Then, Swamp will drop Nihilego's speed 1 stage, and Charizard is airborne so he stays at full speed. Now, Charizard can go first, but I had to make sure that Charizard did not Mega Evolve until the second turn, because Sun had to stay in the sky long enough. But the entire fight hinges on this second turn. Charizard fires Solar Beam first. If it crits, everything is great. That barely ever happened, of course. Instead, I have to beg for Nihilego to pick the right move to attack back with. If it was Sludge Wave, and it didn't poison, then Charizard lives and can fire a second Solar Beam, at which point we're good again. But if Sludge Wave poisoned, or if Nihilego decided, outside of my control, to use Power Gem, then Charizard died, and I had to bring out Sawsbuck next. And this is where the ranges ruin this fight. Sawsbuck fires Bloom Doom to make it grassy terrain. And if the ranges of Solar Beam and Bloom Doom are bad, then Nihilego lives on a pixel, and then usually kills Sawsbuck with Sludge Wave and turns grassy terrain into Corrosive Field, and the fight is over. No matter what I do, I cannot win the fight anymore. That's because if the Nihilego did die, then it would make Aya send Vileplume, who I could kill with Heat Wave and start burning field. If Nihilego had to be killed by Houndoom next, then it would bring Dragalge. That thing is horrible. It also resists fire, and is incredibly strong. My best bet was to use Talonflame, protect on the turn it uses a seed to gain a Baneful Bunker, then hit it with a Brave Bird to bring it down 3/4, then Talonflame dies, and by now, Dragalge is slow enough to die to Salazzle's Dragon Pulse. If Nihilego had died to Sawsbuck instead, then by the time Dragalge dies, Vileplume should have also died. Only for the next horrible, disgusting Pokemon to deal with to come out next in either scenario. Toxapex. If I did not have Destiny Bond, then this team couldn't beat Aya. It was the only way to kill it. And worse than that, Toxapex wasn't guaranteed to kill Houndoom from full HP with a boosted Surf. In fact, I had to do some scary switching in to have Houndoom take a Surf and almost die, but not. Except in the few times when a range or a crit would kill Houndoom before he Destiny Bonded. Let's say we did kill Toxapex with Houndoom, and we're on the good side of history, where Sawsbuck hasn't died yet. Well, now, we have to deal with Alolan Muck. For the record, I loathe this Pokemon. At this point, we have one option. Use Jumpluff to put Muck to sleep with Sleep Powder, which on Swamp is 100% accurate, which is great. You know what's not great? Needing Muck to stay asleep for more than 2 turns. A 2/3 chance for that to happen, so that Jumpluff uses both Sunny Day and Grassy Terrain. If both of those aren't put up, then Salazzle is unable to kill Muck with Heat Wave. Then came Aya's last Pokemon, one last infuriating bastard, Mega Gengar, who outspeeds Salazzle to use Sludge Wave. If Salazzle has full HP, she lives that and kills Gengar to win the fight. But if we were in the horrible situation where because Sawsbuck died, we never killed Vileplume, then when Jumpluff comes out after Toxapex was Destiny Bonded, Vileplume shows up there. This is horrendous, because now we can't put it to sleep, and we still need to set up grass and sun. Vileplume can't kill Jumpluff with one Sludge Wave, unless it poisons her, and then Jumpluff dies. And even if Jumpluff gets both setup moves done, and we kill it with Salazzle, it's all ruined. Muck will decide, for some infuriating reason only in this scenario, to Shadow Sneak Salazzle, rendering her no longer able to kill Gengar before it kills her. Now look back at all the randomness I just laid out for you. All the things that have to go right, and can go wrong. Now consider this. This is the 5th fight of the boss rush. You have to win 4 fights before this, just to try this fight once. A fight that in my opinion I had less than 50% odds to win. And you aren't necessarily guaranteed to reach the fight with Aya on every attempt. Because remember, Heat Wave misses 10% of the time, and there are critical moments I have to land it. To finally frame this against reality, what I really did during the boss rush, I did not beat Aya once until the 7th attempt, over an hour of attempting the boss rush. That attempt, Charizard crit Nihilego, giving me the pathway to actually win, and all the other luck events went my way. This allowed me to reach the 6th fight against Sarah, a team you'd expect that a fire-centric team would have a good time against. That's when I discovered, yet again, that my testing video had a miss against the very first opponent, Alolan Ninetales, and in this boss rush attempt, I didn't miss Ninetales, thereby changing the second enemy out from Beartic to Kyurem. I lost the attempt. It took over an hour to get past Aya, and I immediately lost the next fight in sequence because my testing wasn't rigorous enough to find out what happened if I beat the Ninetales without taking damage. This is nauseating. At this point, I decided that animations are being turned off. They take far too much time when I'm battling the same 5 opponents for 10 minutes at a time, and I did not get past Aya again until attempt 13. At which point, in my effort to make the video look more interesting, I wanted to turn animations back on, so that I could show them for fights I hadn't yet beaten. After every fight, the attendant heals your team and asks if you want to continue. I thought she was asking if I would like to suspend, like the Battle Pavilion did, which would put you back on the title screen and let you continue later. That is not what this fucking option does. If you pick no, then you forfeit the boss rush. Why the fuck is that an option? If you want to quit, then you can just turn off the game. I hit no and walked out of the boss rush, and that win against Aya was thrown away. For the remainder of the video, there won't be animations on in battle. I apologize for this. It was for my sanity. Sanity that was quickly being erased as I sat there now, being cosmically trolled as I failed over and over to get past Aya, as if the game saw my quit out as an insult and wouldn't let me have another win against her ever again. Of course, I did eventually get a win again, on attempt 25, then the fight with Sarah, which I had gone to great lengths to retest after the last debacle, went the way my original video went where I missed Ninetales once, so I could follow the path through that video again, and I won Sarah's fight, leading to Null, who I then lost to, because my tests did not reveal that there was a range on Porygon Z with Houndoom. I have made it officially past Aya only 2 times in 25 attempts, and have not gone further than the 7th fight. Then I beat Aya again, only on attempt 31, only to lose to Null again. He has a Chansey with Eviolite, and Sawsbuck has to jump kick it twice, while Burning Field does barely enough extra damage that it dies. The second jump kick missed. Chansey begins healing itself, stalls me into oblivion, the run is over. I beat Aya again on attempt 34, then amazingly, I went on to beat Sarah, then Null for the first time, then the 8th fight against Radimus on the first try. This marked the first time that I would make it to the 9th fight, Luna. A fight that is the only one in the boss rush that my strategy is completely invalid against. Luna's fight is on New World, so I could not create weather or other field effects here. As well, before I got to this point in the real run, Luna's fight had a horrendous problem. She opens with Bisharp, who has Sucker Punch and Focus Sash. Charizard must hit it with Heat Wave and another move to kill it, but I had to beg the game, using Protect as a way to try influencing it, to not let Bisharp hit Charizard with Sucker Punch a second time. He can barely live the first one, and after this, Heat Wave must land and either burn Bisharp or it decides not to Sucker Punch Charizard since I made it fail on the previous turn, which makes the AI deprioritize that move. As you can imagine, this is unreasonable to allow when we have such a horrible time getting past Aya at all. Instead, I made an amendment to the video guide with a note that said that after Heat Wave hits Bisharp the first time, switch Charizard out for Talonflame. This makes the second Sucker Punch whiff, and Talonflame is faster than Bisharp, so his priority move kills Bisharp. The point of all of this setup is to explain that Charizard staying alive was required. If he died, the fight was over. This kept Charizard alive without needing a burn or making the AI get confused. But I made one more note. That note was, the only thing that's going to fucking happen, and it will, is that Heat Wave at the very beginning will miss. And that note is wrong, because on the very first time I got to Luna, Heat Wave didn't miss. It never fired, because Bisharp crit the first Sucker Punch. And that was where I realized I would never win this boss rush with this team. All the hours of testing I put in to make a guide for every battle, and the 4.5 hours and 34 attempts I had given to the real thing, all of the planning to talk about every little discovery I made along the way, and all the optimizations I put in to make it easier, all gone to waste. This was never going to happen with this team. I went and found out, statistically, why this is the case. I calculated just 2 aspects of the boss rush with this team. First off, I don't know how to calculate damage ranges and didn't put any time into researching if it can be calculated, but I'm leaving that out of this. Also, I decided not to even calculate the entire boss rush, but just the fights after Sarah, meaning Null all the way to Saphira. What I did was calculate the likelihood of avoiding run-ending critical hits and run-ending 10% chances. Avoiding a critical hit in all the cases I cared about is the opposite of landing a crit. That is, 23 out of 24 times you will avoid a crit. From null to the end, there are between 9 and 13 crits that can or probably will end the run, meaning to avoid all of them has odds of 57% to 68%. So what does it say that this last run that got to Luna couldn't even win that? What does it say when I tell you the next calculation? That calculation is looking at every time a 10% occurrence would kill me. For all intents and purposes, there are only 3 things that do that. Me missing Heat Wave, me missing Jump Kick, or an opponent missing Rock Slide. In total, there are between 27 and 30 times that I had to avoid that 10% occurrence, which translates to odds between 4 and 6%. I said that I beat the final boss last episodes with odds of under 1%, but it seems to me that the odds of winning this boss rush with this team is even worse. And keep in mind, the final boss was 3 fights. This is 18 fights. The time investment in these 34 attempts so far has already exceeded that of Anna's final boss. But now you must be wondering, what am I going to do? If I had a team that could theoretically beat every gym leader, what are the chances I'll find another team that can do the same and be actually consistent enough to complete the real run? Well, fortunately, I had one more team idea left. It had been bouncing around in my head in some form ever since I first finished the testing on the Burning Field team, and I had the suspicion that it should be even better than that team. The primary mode of victory lies in a move uniquely known by one Pokemon. Extreme Evo Boost. Yes, I'm going to try beating the boss rush using an Eevee. It's very simple. Eevee comes in, uses EVMZ on the move Last Resort, and gets a double quint raise to all stats. Then, predictably, it uses Baton Pass to give the recipient double its own stats with a substitute as well in very select circumstances. On the surface, seems like a no-brainer, but it's foolish to think this alone does the job. And Eevee cannot possibly survive an attack from many Pokemon no matter how defensive it is, let alone a second attack in order to Baton Pass away the stats. This of course is true, but what if Eevee didn't have to take full damage? What if it could take half damage from every attack? That would require something like Aurora Veil from a returning member of Triple Core, Alolan Ninetales. Eevee and Ninetales represent this strategy's core. Ninetales is here to support the shit out of Eevee, using Snow Warning Aurora Veil to reduce Eevee's damage by 50%, which most times is enough to give Eevee the chance to take a second hit and Baton Pass. Ninetales will almost never be prevented from using Aurora Veil because she holds a Focus Sash. As well, Ninetales has Safeguard to prevent statuses from interfering in particular situations, and then Blizzard and Dazzling Gleam. I assure you that both of these moves have value, even on a Ninetales with zero special attack investment. But this stat buffing is only as good as the Pokemon that uses it. What Pokemon, plural, do I plan to pass to in order to take down the boss rush? And this was the complex question. At first, I had only planned for 2. The first was Greninja. I'm biased about this since I've been using him the whole game, but the idea of not only giving him double stats, but also using Protean to further stab with all of his moves seemed like a great idea. Next to Greninja was Mega Blaziken. Now you have a titanically strong Pokemon in the Mega Chicken, who was also continuing to boost its own speed. Between these two, I could cover nearly every type well, and I believe that there was hope in this. You might ask, why are there no stats for these two? And what were their actual moves? What were the other 2 Pokemon on this team? The answers to all those questions can be summed up in this statement. This team also could not overcome the boss rush. Don't get me wrong, the strategy had potential. Many of the gym leaders, maybe half of them, actually crumple easily to this team, in a way I've really never used myself. I started to understand how set mode actually works, and was wishing in certain scenarios that I could turn off shift mode so it could save me time declining to switch Pokemon after a knockout. But the team couldn't make it there. Many opponents would not budge to this team, no matter what I did with Greninja and Blaziken. I didn't record any of this because I didn't want to waste time and space on it if it went nowhere. Adding other pass receivers to the team wouldn't really help either. The Pokemon I would expect to kill certain types kept falling short. Let me say here, I had a single-minded purpose in the movesets I used from this point on. Every attack had to have 100% accuracy. No more bullshit from missing something like Heat Wave. But this led to times when the best move I could use of a type would not cut it. One I can recall off the top of my head is when Blaziken, having to use Brick Break because it was the highest power fighting move with 100% accuracy he could use, was unable to beat every opponent on Noel's team. It was then that I started to feel the dread weigh on me. There was a strong chance that this was it. I would either have to return to the Burning Field team and suffer hundreds of debilitating losses to luck in order to do what it already proven it could do, or I would have to give up on this, declaring it above my ability. I'll be honest, I wasn't going to go back to the Burning Field team. That ship had sailed, and it was either use the Evo Boost team, or I was done. And looking at the choices I had for sweeping, it looked like I was done. And then I thought about something. Last episode, I beat Anna's final boss, and throughout this series, I beat everything that came at me. But now, I've reached something that surpasses all of that. By so much. It's kind of unfair. And the thing about all the difficulty I've surmounted so far is that I've been intentionally restricting myself. If this feels so unfair to me, why should I continue holding on to that restriction? This is something far more difficult than everything else that came before. If I wanted to beat the boss rush, if I wanted to show you a way I could do it, then it had to be done. I cast off the no pseudos, ultra beasts, and legendaries rule. I decided, fuck it, I'm going to use legendaries. So what legendaries did I use? Just both Primals and Mega Mewtwo X? Hey, you know what they say, go big or go home. And in this case, if this doesn't work, it really will be go home. So yeah, now we're talking ludicrous amounts of power, and I won't say that I'm going to win this boss rush with subtlety and finesse. No, we're just bum rushing this entire thing with raw goddamn strength like the lame Uber spammer I am now. Let me just say, it's not my fault that the game lets you use both primal reversions in the same battle and still lets you have a Mega Evolution and Z move on top of that. Let's take a closer look then at the final team I created. That is Boss Rush Victory or Bust. First, Primal Groudon, and a point that needs to be made. Desolate Land and Primordial Sea are busted abilities, and are literally life-saving on this team. That will be explained in great detail once we get to the fights. Groudon has his types covered with both Earthquake and 2 fire moves, Flamethrower for consistency, and Eruption. Yet again, we're pulling Eruption into the team after an entire series of ignoring it. Then coming back from the Burning Field team is Solar Beam. Of course, if Sun is constantly going to be up, then Solar Beam is a must-have for everything fire and ground can't beat, which is basically only water. As for Primal Groudon, his unbelievable defense makes him pretty much impenetrable to a lot of enemies, so only special attacks pose a serious threat to him. Of course, that is in stark contrast to Primal Kyogre. The big whale has only one move matching its type, that being the water version of Eruption, Water Spout. With it constantly raining, that move has a maximum power of over 335, including both Rain and Stab with full HP. He then adds Ice Beam and Thunder to his arsenal, since of course Thunder can never miss thanks to his Rain. Finally though, he has Protect, something that actually matters immensely. Then finally, Mega Mewtwo X. I guess I could have gone for Mega Rayquaza just to be thematic, but Mewtwo is way more important to cover everything that remains. I picked X because I wanted a fighting move that would absolutely tear and give Mewtwo even more staying power than the doubled stats give. Drain Punch. Combine that with his signature Psy Strike, along with Shadow Ball and currently Flamethrower, he covers near to everything else that Kyogre and Groudon can't cover. Also, I learned only here that Mega Mewtwo X Shiny makes him Red Frieza, which is just cooler. What else can be said? It's a 780 stat legendary, the highest in base Pokemon games through Gen 7, but we're still missing one more Pokemon from this team. You might wonder if there's something even better than these 3 legendaries left to show. Well, let me say, if it weren't for this last Pokemon existing, I think that I would never win this boss rush. Talonflame. Yeah, he's still here. I already said what I need to say about Talonflame. Gale Wings gives me options that no other Pokemon can, and they will prove to be critical to the success of this team. So we finally found the team that can have a reasonable chance at the boss rush. With this team, I went through and tested against every team again. They are able to beat all of them. Not to say that they will make short work of it though. Finally, let's actually begin the analysis of the boss rush one more time, starting with Julia. For the record, the team order is Ninetales is first, Talonflame is second, and the rest after that. The boss rush starts like I already explained before with Julia sending out Galvantula. Now this is not great for Ninetales either, as it can use Thunder on her twice before she's able to set up Safeguard. She has to put up Aurora Veil first turn no matter what. Once Veil and Safeguard are there, we just wait for Galvantula to knock out Ninetales, then we switch to Eevee. This is when I found out something very interesting about the AI when it encounters an Eevee behind an Aurora Veil. It has a strong tendency to leave it alone at first. In this case, Galvantula decided to Sticky Web first. This lets Eevee easily set up the Extreme Evo boost. With it on, Eevee can then comfortably take a Thunder from Galvantula, can't be paralyzed thanks to Safeguard, and then pass to Groudon. From there, Groudon is unstoppable. It flamethrowers down Galvantula, who can only weakly Bug Buzz him, and then Julia sends out that damn Wash Rotom again, which is exactly why he has Solar Beam. Rotom is wiped out, and then Xurkitree is out. With even speed stages, Xurkitree can take an action to Energy Ball Groudon, but it still does little, and one Earthquake shorts out the Ultra Beast. Alolan Raichu can also attack first, but Psyshock does poorly too, and feints to Earthquake. After that, Mega Ampharos can do nothing, and then Magnezone gets one more hidden power in before also being crushed. That felt amazing. This strategy can chew through enemies with ease. Up next is Florinia, who you can imagine will be similarly easy to defeat. This is one of the very few teams that the Burning Field team could beat nearly 100% of the time. She starts with Whimsicott, which is interesting because it is one of the few Pokemon that Ninetales can beat on her own. Veil goes up first, Energy Ball does less than half to Ninetales, then Blizzard kills Whimsicott. This leads Florinia to send out Ferrothorn, a great setup choice for Eevee. He's naturally faster than Ferrothorn, letting him set up the boost while it only used Spikes this turn, and the turn after as I pass to Groudon. From that point on, Eruption kills everything in my path, burning down the forest field that Florinia uses. Ferrothorn was obviously dead as fuck, then only Decidueye could come in and attack first with Shadow Sneak, doing barely anything. After that, Mega Venusaur, Shaman, and even Breloom come out to be incinerated without a single recourse. An easy fight that will never need to be talked about again. Next comes Shelly, who unfortunately for her, decided to also base her battle on Forest. Her opener though is quite a bit more difficult to deal with if you don't move fast. Ribombee. You see, it is also going to start setting up with Quiver Dance, and you don't want to wait for it to beat Ninetales, because it will easily kill Eevee after. But I had done a lot less practice on these teams than I had for the Burning Field team, so I'm not used to using Eevee. Instead, I switched stupidly to Groudon first, and use Eruption to blast Ribombee and the Forest. But Shelly has something to counter my Primal. Volcarona, which outspeeds him and hits him with a vicious Fire Blast that almost kills him and ruins his Eruption power. Groudon is beaten by Volcarona, showing that I can't be cavalier about this team. But the power this team affords me, 100 times more than any other I tried yet, is its ability to improvise. After all, Talonflame can come in and slice down Volcarona with ease. But out next is something that is going to beat Talonflame even with his priority. Mega Pinsir. That thing annoyed me every time I came through Shelly's fight, because it could tax my teammates and there wasn't anything I could do. It floats above the Burning Field too, so it won't take damage over time. In this clumsy improv, I move to Mewtwo, who is promptly one-shot by Aerolate Return. What I find incredible is that same move doesn't kill Ninetales, who came back to put up another Aurora Veil to try passing to Eevee now. And Pinsir lets Eevee boost while it Swords Danced. It then Swords Danced again while he passed to the only Pokemon who has a chance now, Talonflame. Despite those 4 stages of attack, Pinsir's quick attack does not kill Talonflame and is swatted down by Acrobatics. But now I have no Gale Wings. The next opponent, Heracross, can be killed easily with just regular speed, but the last 2 are both neutral to flying, starting with Genesect. However, Talonflame doesn't have to do everything on his own. Instead of attacking the Steel Bug, he protects. Then Burning Field takes off half of Genesect's HP. At that point, it is not able to outspeed or tank another Acrobatics, leaving only one enemy left, Scizor. Now it doesn't even matter if Talonflame faints. Scizor is going to die to the flames long before it takes out the rest of my team, because it also loses half of its HP per turn. A Protect keeps Talonflame safe for a turn, and the only thing that Scizor could do anyway was Bullet Punch, which barely hurt. 3 fights down, next up is Shade. Shade is the first opponent in the boss rush to use something really annoying and powerful, Dawn Wing's Necrozma. It is well within its power to kill Ninetales in one hit with Flash Cannon, making the Focus Sash a strict requirement on Ninetales. Veil is up, Ninetales is down, Eevee comes in, and thank goodness that this works as such. Necrozma fires Photon Geyser at Eevee, who barely survives with red HP. Obviously, even with the Evo boost, Eevee will not survive another attack. It's a good damn thing then that Eevee now outspeeds Necrozma and can pass to Frieza. Frieza can easily beat Necrozma with Shadow Ball, but Shade is ready to troll the hell out of me again with Mimikyu. One of Mewtwo X's weaknesses, it can Shadow Sneak him twice while he has to break its disguise. As such, Mewtwo is down to 93 HP by the time Mimikyu goes away, only to be replaced by another horrible Pokemon, Aegislash. And Shadow Ball cannot kill Aegislash in its defense stance, and it rakes Mewtwo with Shadow Claw to kill. This looks like it could be the end, but I know I can still try to mount an offense. Groudon comes in and has to wait for Aegislash to King Shield, in the meantime turning Dark Crystal into Crystal Cavern. The next turn, Flamethrower melts the sword down, but Shade is ready to counter the Fire Ground legend, Chandelure. But Kyogre comes in and thoroughly dooms it, removing the Crystal Cavern by mixing Rain and Sun. Yes, even with this team, we actually have a way to create a field effect separate from the ones the gym leaders use, something that will prove to be pivotal. Even though Chandelure can hurt Kyogre badly with Energy Ball, it can't kill him, and Water Spout was not reduced enough. Chandelure washed away by it. Miss Magius is next, and its Power Gem has little effect on Groudon, leading into the last from Shade, Mega Gengar. Yeah, both him and Aya have one, and I hate that thing. It of course outspeeds Groudon, but Sludge Wave is not enough to beat the Ruby Primal, whose Flamethrower answers and defeats Shade. So now, we return to the leader who demoralized my Burning Field team, Aya. What can we do against that Nihilego now? Well, first off, Ninetales is somehow faster than it and Veils immediately. Sadly, the very next thing she'd like to do, Safeguard, is cut off precisely because of what Safeguard would block. She was hit by Sludge Wave to go to 1 HP, then poisoned. You might think that next is Eevee, but I found out Eevee does not tank even one attack from Nihilego with only the Veil. Instead, I have to go to Mewtwo and Psystrike that asshole jellyfish out of existence. But Toxapex is next, and that's something Eevee will be able to set up safely against. Eevee passes now to Kyogre instead of Mewtwo. Psystrike is nice, but the constant speed reductions in Swamp make Mewtwo easy pickings for Mega Gengar. But the unfortunate thing here is Kyogre got poisoned by toxic spikes, and because of this, the plan is disintegrating. Dragalge is out here now, and Ice Beam is not enough to beat it. Kyogre is barely alive after getting hit and taking more poison, but he was able to beat Dragalge. Before Vileplume arrives, I bring out Groudon now, which frustratingly, a shift mode switch between Kyogre and Groudon does not initiate Rainbow Field. Then I think that Groudon wouldn't be faster than it, so I go for Flamethrower, but I was faster. Flamethrower leaves Vileplume alive, and it answers by taking half of Groudon's HP. Another Flamethrower kills, but here comes Gengar. I'm in unknown territory here, so I go to Mewtwo. Mewtwo is slower than Gengar, and one-shot. That sucks. But with only a couple left, I know that we should be okay, so I go to Talonflame and Tailwind to ensure that my primals are faster than what remain. Groudon returns and Flamethrower dissipates the ghost. But then came the last horrible Pokemon, Alolan Muck, who between a Flamethrower and nerfed Earthquake only lost half to Groudon before he fainted. Then, Kyogre was killed by Shadow Sneak, and I only have Eevee left. And even with this hyper-powered team, I still lost to Aya. That was a biting loss. I'll admit, it irked me a lot. But consider, I didn't get the chance to put up Safeguard, And I think if Ninetales goes to 1 HP anyway and she's faster, then I can use Safeguard first, avoid poison, and still Veil. 35 total losses to the boss rush. We start again. By the way, I'm almost always going to skip directly back to the team I lost on. There's no reason to show most of these teams again. The strategies for them should never change, but it doesn't mean that I always get back to the latest opponent. Remember, the menace of crits is always present, and on the next attempt, I don't even beat Julia. Her circuitry crit Groudon to death, and that's already the end of the attempt. On the next attempt that got to her, I also want to clarify that Shelly had a way better strategy after that first time through. We start with Veil like before, but then Ninetales immediately bounces for Eevee, at which point Anna the Ribombee has used 2 Quiver Dances. Then yet again, we see that strange occurrence where instead of attacking Eevee, the opponent uses a status move first, thinking it has time. Sticky Web again in this case. Evo Boost, but Eevee has to tank a Bug Buzz that hurts a lot. He's alive though, and passes to Groudon. Groudon has to take another Buzz too for way less damage, and now Pinsir shows up before Volcarona. This lets Groudon burn it away with Eruption while only taking a weak Earthquake. Now Volcarona appeared again, but I learned that its Fire Blast can't kill Groudon, and Flamethrower can kill it in return. After this though, Genesect can outspeed him and take him out, but the remainder of the fight can be won simply with Talonflame like before. However, we then return to Shade, and find out that his fight is much thinner than it seems, and tolerates much less ad-libbing. When Chandelure came out to take on Groudon, instead of leaving for Kyogre, he stayed, then lost most of his HP to Fire Blast. We kill Chandelure and reduce the crystals in the cave to dust, but now we have to deal with Gengar. I then make the worst play of trying to kill it directly with Brave Bird instead of Tailwinding, and Kyogre has to lose a lot of his HP to Gengar before Shade's Mismagius can come in and mop up everything else I have with ease. That's really annoying. I fix this on the next attempt by sending Talonflame in front of Chandelure and using Tailwind. Then Kyogre comes in and Water Spout goes first and kills the last 3 of Shade's team with ease. Now that fight is solved. I failed to reverse the move order for Aya this time, but Ninetales isn't poisoned, so she's allowed to Safeguard too, and will have a way better outlook now. That Safeguard lasts just long enough for Eevee to pass to Kyogre, and the Toxic Spikes fail to affect him. I could probably use a substitute with Eevee too, but oh well. 2 Thunders sink Toxapex, 2 Ice Beams sink Dragalge, who for some reason in one speed stage lost, became slower than Kyogre, who had lost 3 by then. And now Kyogre is facing Muck. I make a bad play though, and keep Kyogre here, and am not only punished for it by surviving on 3 with a range, but I got poisoned by Gunk Shot. Thunder takes half from Muck, but then I go for Mewtwo to Drain Punch the Muck for neutral physical damage. It lived, and killed Mewtwo with Gunk Shot. I found out through this boss rush a lot of Pokemon I utterly despise now. Then I blow it. I killed Muck with Talonflame, and then Gengar was coming. The smart play is to Tailwind and die, Gengar loses some speed, and Groudon beats it in Vileplume easily. Not only do I switch Talonflame to go to Groudon immediately, I then fucking misclick Solar Beam instead. But thank fucking goodness, after Groudon lost, Talonflame still had Gale Wings, killed Gengar with Acrobatics, and just barely scraped by Vileplume. God, can I please not throw away entire runs because of a misplay? Whatever, let's move on to Sarah, where we're somehow treated to an Alolan Ninetales mirror match. I put up Aurora Veil and Safeguard, as it put up a veil of its own and attacked for very little damage. I'm obviously not dying anytime soon to that Ninetales, so we have to go over to Eevee manually. Thanks to Safeguard, we are safe from Freeze Dry freezing Eevee, who is just able to boost and pass to Mewtwo. The big problem in this fight is the fact that Aurora Veil is on Sarah's side for 8 turns. Though we wasted a lot of it already, it's going to really dampen our Drain Punches here. It takes 3 attacks to bring down Ninetales, but when we do, the Veil died with it. After that, Sarah's team is powerless against Frieza. Drain Punch decks Fridge Rotom and Kyurem. Weavile, Mamoswine, and Beartick can all sneak in pathetic Ice Shards or Aqua Jets, but all their damage is undone by Drain Punch. Now that's how you win a fight. We're going to find out that Null was similarly helpless against Mewtwo X. Veil and Safeguard go up against Pyroar, who takes down Ninetales in 2 hits. Once again, it chooses the Sunny Day instead of attack a boosting Eevee. Its Hyper Voice hits Eevee for not all of his HP before he passes to Mewtwo. Then Mewtwo gets the juiciest Drain Punch on a switching in Chansey, predicting I was here for special attack. No, you fucker. After that, every Pokemon on Null's team is outsped and one-shot. Heliolisk, Meloetta, who was the one barrier against Blaziken I mentioned earlier, Pyroar, Porygon Z, and Mega Pidgeot, who, let me say on behalf of the Burning Field team, fuck that thing. Especially here on Holyfield. Next up, on his daughter's home field, is Radimus. He opens with an Espeon who blasts Ninetales with Psychic, meaning Veil goes up and nothing else. Then, Radimus opens the door on this fight like I still can't believe. When I switch to Espeon's pre-evolution, Radimus decides not to set up with Espeon, but to switch to fucking Lunala, who now comes out and loses its Shadow Shield in a hailstorm while Eevee boosts. All for Lunala to try to do to Eevee is burn him with Will-O-Wisp. Cool, Eevee left, here's Mewtwo and Shadow Ball. Lunala, Mega Metagross, Espeon, Starmie, Alakazam, and Delphox are all defeated in a row with Shadow Ball. This brings us back to the farthest point we got. The opening Pokemon for Luna, Bisharp. This is where we have to contend once again with the fact that New World ruins every strategy I use. Hail cannot exist here, so neither can Aurora Veil. What I do is use Ninetales to break the Focus Sash on that Bisharp using Dazzling Gleam for half. And then I go to Eevee to boost, which I found out is possible on Bisharp even without Veil. Unless it does the single solitary thing it can do to stop Eevee and cause me to lose this fight again. It used Iron Head and Eevee flinched. Eevee could not boost anymore and I lost. That was bullshit. Bisharp can do 3 attacks to Eevee. Brick Break, Sucker Punch, which actually works on Extreme Evo Boost because the base move is an attack, and Iron Head. And that flinch was its only out. I don't even think a crit this time may be enough. I still tried to play it out, using Mega Mewtwo to kill Bisharp, but after taking a Sucker Punch, her incoming Greninja is faster and Dark Pulses Mewtwo down. Talonflame has enough power to kill Greninja with acrobatics, but then came Mega Tyranitar, who outspeeds Kyogre to crunch him for enough HP that Water Spout no longer kills. I forget that there is no sun when I go for Solar Beam with Groudon, who lives with 12 HP to fire it and kill the Pseudo. But so fittingly, Groudon and Talonflame are powerless to stop Darkrai. I was really mad about that one. Can I please just have the things I did in my testing fucking work? No, because anything can go wrong at any time. Like 2 more losses to Julia alone. The first one being, if Eevee is crit by Galvantula's Thunder, game over. And then, immediately after, I found out something else. Remember when I said how Galvantula missing its initial Thunder made me have to use a different strategy with Burning Field team? Yeah, that happened here. And it proceeds to spend time sticky webbing against Ninetales, allowing Hail, its own Life Orb, and Blizzards to kill it. And because of that, Eevee had to come out against Magnezone. It thunderbolted him down in 1 hit, even with Aurora Veil. I finally got to ascend through the ranks again, fight by fight, only to get slapped down again by my apparent nemesis, Aya. You see, Kyogre ended up getting poisoned by Dragalge, and because of that drop in HP from last time, Kyogre is not able to attack Muck, who kills him. I end up throwing away Talonflame and Mewtwo before Groudon kills it, and guess who's back? Gengar. This needs to stop. I learned how to make it stop right after. All I need to do is go back and forth between Groudon and Kyogre as Muck comes out until I land on Groudon in front of Muck and Rainbow Field is taken over. This lets Groudon easily kill Muck with Earthquake, and Talonflame can kill Vileplume and Tailwind so that we kill that fucking Gengar with Mewtwo or Groudon. Now we shouldn't have to talk about Aya again. Back to the rush again on attempt 42. That change in strategy lets us not only pass Aya, but also everyone else back up to Luna. Bisharp is hurt but beats Ninetales. Now please, for the love of God, do not flinch Eevee! Good. Brick Break. Now I don't even have to care if Eevee would or wouldn't survive a second hit. It will always use Sucker Punch on Eevee trying to pass, so it'll be in Mewtwo's hands after this. And Mewtwo proceeds to decimate Bisharp, Hydreigon, Mega Tyranitar, Greninja, Darkrai, and Weavile with Drain Punch. Only the last one hitting Mewtwo at all with a dinky Ice Shard. We have finally made progress. We now reach that fabled Samson fight, which had shut down my first two team ideas entirely. It sucks because the Burning Field team actually trivialized him. How will the Evo Boost team do? Of course, where else would Samson be but Big Top? He leads with Breloom, who is practically the only Pokemon who makes Safeguard 100% necessary. The first attack it uses is Spore. Safeguard shuts that the fuck down. Now we can use Aurora Veil, but Samson's fight has an irritating problem. This Breloom now attacks with Bullet Seed. It can kill if it hits 5 times, but not otherwise. In this case, Ninetales is only hit 3 times and lives, which means I now need to attack with Dazzling Gleam. It attacked first with Mach Punch, but got a weak Striker result, letting Ninetales live and actually kill it in return with Dazzling Gleam. Then comes the worst Pokemon in the boss rush. A sentence I'll probably say again for several other Pokemon, but it is because of this Pokemon alone that I need Talonflame. Hawlucha. Without Gale Wings, I don't have a way to kill this fucking thing. Unburden means I will never go first against it, but Acrobatics from my Talonflame chops it down instantly. But awfully, Hail has broken my Gale Wings, making it not really a good idea to have Talonflame stay for everything else. It definitely shouldn't stay for the next opponent, Lucario. But if Eevee is the one in front of the fighting type, it somehow decides no need to attack the normal type with a fighting move. Use Swords Dance first. That lets Eevee use a very important substitute, and then Evo Boost while it Swords Dance up to maximum attack. Before Eevee can pass, Lucario extreme speeds the sub away, but the stats go to Mewtwo. This may seem like a dead end, but believe it or not, a max attack extreme speed actually doesn't kill Mewtwo with 2 defense stages, and he reaps most of that lost HP back with Drain Punch. It's important he did too, because out next is Marshadow, whose Shadow Sneak would have killed Mewtwo otherwise. Instead, we respond with Psystrike and kill it, the same as the incoming Como-O. Samson's last is Mega Blaziken, who doesn't bother to do Protect speed boosting, and instead dies to one more Psystrike. That fight makes me nervous, but we at least got past it. Now we come to what I believed was the second hardest fight for the Burning Field team. Charlotte, who opens with Oven Rotom and Primal Groudon. Surprise, there are double fights in the boss rush. In fact, we just stepped into the doubles section. The next few are in doubles, and let me tell you, these are the hardest fucking battles to deal with. Speaking of hard to deal with, Groudon! That disaster bastard puts an absolute stop to Aurora Veil. Because Ninetales can barely do any damage to these two, her only move is to Safeguard to avoid burns, but Talonflame has a very important role, Tailwinding to put out the Burning Field. That drastically cuts their fire attack damage. This and many other reasons are why Talonflame is second. But this first turn, they didn't use fire. Rock Slide came at us, and look, Talonflame fucking dodged it, and Rotom's Discharge could only beat Ninetales. This actually almost goes against my strategy. I needed one of my Pokemon to die at least. but now that Ninetales did, the fight is over. Let me mention something. Groudon's Desolate Land is one of the most horrible abilities to deal with. If you're using most any strong team, it probably utilizes weather of some kind. If it isn't Sun, then Groudon ruins it, and is immune to water moves because of it. Unless you happen to have Primal Kyogre, who is one of the only Pokemon who can overwrite the Desolate Land with Primordial Sea and destroy Charlotte's entire team with Water Spout. The fact that the Primals get to rewrite the rules of weather is a humongous curse until you use them yourself. Then it becomes your greatest tool, especially when it lets you overcome opposing Primals. Groudon, Rotom, Charizard Y, Volcarona, Chandelure, and Blaziken are all nothing in the face of a tailwinded water-spouting Kyogre. Charlotte goes from one of the worst leaders to fight with my previous team to one that I win against 99% of the time, that last 1% being if Rock Slide missed both of my Pokemon. Anyway, Terra. The doubles pain continues, starting with Hippowdon and Flygon on Desert Field. What's strange and fortunate is that Terra doesn't start Sandstream with a Hippo, so we get to have Hail come down. The problem is, after Talonflame starts Tailwind, Flygon comes in with Rock Slide, and Ninetales has to avoid a flinch. Oh my god, she did. Veil goes up, and because of that, only Talonflame died. Now we have to hope that Eevee boosts while Ninetales uses the Tailwind to launch Blizzard. Oh, by the way, I have no idea if this is going to come up in the fights I show, but you need to make sure that the Evo Boost actually targets something. If both enemies die, then Evo Boost fails. That's why I actually target my ally with it, because it would redirect to the enemies if my ally faints, but if both enemies die, it won't redirect to the ally, of course. But what happens in this fight that is unexpected is that Blizzard froze Flygon and stole its turn. That helps out incredibly. It isn't necessary, but it makes things way less scary, especially since it was liable to Rock Slide again and flinch Eevee. Ninetales dies to Earthquake and the boost happens, and now all we need is to get this boost to Kyogre. Mewtwo comes out to support, but this means we have to make sure that Groudon never has to come out. Otherwise, Water Spout is disabled. We get rid of Flygon with Mewtwo and pass to Kyogre, while all Hippowdon did was use Slack Off. In comes Landorus. Even with the Desert nerf to Water, Water Spout destroys the Hippo and Genie, but then Gliscor and Mega Garchomp show up. Tailwind ran out, but Kyogre is still faster than both, and Gliscor died, only for Garchomp to live. However, it used Earthquake, which did very little to my side, and it died to Psystrike. Last is Excadrill, who with Desert Field can go first, but its Earthquake fails to kill Kyogre enough to let it survive Water Spout. I want to point out, anytime Kyogre or any of my boosted Pokemon are hit, they run the same risk Shuckle ran last episode. If they are crit, then they are probably doomed. Every hit that I have to take is a chance for the entire run to be over. Having just made it from Luna all the way to Ciel next in this same attempt has started making my heart rate rise. Ciel on Mountain, though, was a bad fight for me, according to my practice, and that practice was about to go directly out the window. In the first turn, it is imperative that Yanmega dies first. However, it has a Focus Sash, which necessitates that both Talonflame uses Acrobatics and Ninetales uses Blizzard, all before it gets to use Tailwind. Tailwind in either direction is bad for me, because flying types losing their weaknesses makes Ciel's team very hard to kill quickly. Of course, it's much worse against me, so Yanmega dies while Togekiss would use Air Slash. And my notes say that it would be really nice if Talonflame survived. Talonflame did not survive Air Slash and Hail. As a Shaman now comes in across from me, I'm now forced to improvise, which is what I feared. I did not practice this fight enough to have contingencies in case Talonflame died. What's more, there is no Aurora Veil, meaning that Eevee coming out here is a no-go. Talonflame living into the second turn was to logjam my teammates so that Ninetales could Veil first. But of course, in the heat of the moment on this snowy mountain, I had to go for the Evo boost anyway. And what I get is the same result that Talonflame got. Eevee is air slashed, goes down to low HP, manages not to flinch to use the Z move, then he falls to Hail. At this moment, my only chance now lie in Ninetales continuing to be ignored, so her Blizzard wrecks the shit out of Ciel's side. Both Togekiss and Shaman died to Blizzard this turn as well, meaning we only have to beat 3 more. But one of them horribly is Hawlucha again, and the other is Gliscor. There was one piece of my testing I could try to utilize now. When I fought Hawlucha, I used Mewtwo to Psystrike it, and the most important thing to do here is not Mega Evolve. If I did, then Mewtwo becomes weak to the inevitable acrobatics. But then an even more ridiculous outcome occurs instead. Hawlucha's seed item was supposed to be used on Mountain, where it would get 2 stages of attack. On Snowy Mountain, it got 2 special attack stages instead. But that useless special attack isn't what saved me. It's the 1 stage of lower accuracy that the seed gives on either kind of mountain, making acrobatics miss. Then Blizzard went next and killed both Gliscor and Hawlucha, but we aren't through yet. The final enemy is Mega Salamence, and yet amazingly all this time, Ninetales was never once hurt, and when Salamence rushes at her with Return, her Focus Sash keeps her on her feet and she annihilates the dragon with Blizzard. At the time, I didn't even realize the miss with acrobatics happened. Her side died that turn and I was losing my mind. At this point, I was of the mind that the remaining fights were more likely to be won than not. I knew better than to think I was home free though. If I take 1 crit somewhere, then we lose everything. Adrian is up next, and thankfully, they use Misty Terrain instead of Fairy Tail Field, and the parade of double fights ended. They start with the same Pokemon as Shelly, Ribombee, and it opens with Sticky Web. Here's the thing though, I need to pass to Eevee only after Ninetales faints. This Ribombee is really powerful, and Eevee could not take enough hits to pass the boost. But if I put Aurora Veil up too soon, then the Ribombee would take forever to kill Ninetales, and more than likely, the Veil runs out on Eevee and he can't pass. Plus, this damn Fairy type has a Focus Sash, so the play is to first Safeguard, use 1 Dazzling Gleam, then Aurora Veil, at which point Ninetales faints immediately and Veil just went up. What's awful is that Eevee loses speed to Sticky Web, then loses half to Moonblast and a special attack stage. Those 2 stat losses translate over to the recipient of Baton Pass, but it'll have to not matter. I clench as a second Moonblast hits Eevee. No crit. We go to Groudon, who thankfully isn't blocked from using fire from the field effect, but now a second Sticky Web proc puts him back to base speed. He luckily didn't lose the other special attack stage to a further Moonblast either, and Flamethrower burns up Ribombee. But then comes an unaware Clefable. That kind of devious creature burns me up. The boost is currently useless, and then it survived 2 Earthquakes to Wish, Protect, regain all of its HP, and then hurt Groudon again. The only thing that saved me was a crit Earthquake, where it was no longer able to stand up to the Primal. Then a Magearna appears and disappears since it wasn't faster, but the next one, another recycled Pokemon from an earlier team, will not be beaten in 1 hit. Mimikyu. And this demon used Swords Dance on the extra turn it had to Shadow Claw Groudon. Holy shit! Groudon is still alive! That Titanic defense kept him alive through an attack that had a 1 in 8 chance to crit him and end it. But after earthquaking down a Sylveon, I then meet Mega Mawile, who sucker punches Groudon down. This was not planned. Groudon had beaten everything in testing. I'm in survival mode now, which involves Tailwind, which actually blows away Misty Terrain, and then Mewtwo. By getting rid of its weakness to Dark, Mewtwo tanks 1 Sucker Punch and kills Mawile with the unlikely and critically important Flamethrower he has. If Kyogre had to go out there, he may have been able to go first, unless Mawile threw Sucker Punch, and I don't know if he'd necessarily live. We're on the final 4, but I get to be immediately gutted by having to fight on the field effect that was missing on the previous fight. Fairy Tail. Yeah, Titania's team of Steel types gets to remove their weakness to fire, starting with Excadrill. Let me remind you about something, because it is going to happen more than once. Excadrill uses a seed to have King Shield for the first turn. It's good that Ninetales has no more use here than to Aurora Veil and die to 2 Smart Strikes. Then, Excadrill does the most important thing. It ignores Eevee. It sets up 2 Swords Dances, which means it has maximum attack. But what it doesn't have is speed, which is what Kyogre has when he is passed to. That speed lets him decimate Excadrill before that massive attack power crushes him. You might ask, why not Groudon, who has Earthquake? Because of what I said about the seed item. The next Pokemon to hit the field is Scizor, who uses one of those seeds. I had to use Kyogre because he has Protect, but it also Swords Danced and nailed Kyogre with a painful Bullet Punch for 1/3 of his HP. Water Spout still killed though. Then the most story-involved ace in Reborn, Aegislash. Yet again, Seed Shield. I Protect, and this time the sword does not dance, and after it wasted another of my turns with its own King Shield, I blast it with Water Spout, only taking a tiny scratch from its dying Shadow Sneak. But then comes one of those horrendous Pokemon with a pain-in-the-ass weakness table. Dialga. This fucker is so hard to hurt, and it makes me wish I were using Groudon now. Ice Beam doesn't kill, and its Dragon Pulse brings Kyogre down to low red. Then here's a Mega Metagross. Bullet Punch. Oh! 4 HP! Holy shit! Thunder kills Metagross. One more! Lucario. We have to go to Mewtwo to finish this. And even though it just proved it had extreme speed, it doesn't use it on Frieza and dies to a Drain Punch. I was sweating it with Kyogre. I thought for sure he'd die to Metagross, as I had lost a lot of HP up till then. I'm shaking now. Every turn I take has to be incredibly deliberate and thought through. I cannot blow this, and I have to pray it isn't taken from me. Amaria, Water Surface. This was the last fight that I feared, because it can progress entirely differently per attempt. It starts with Mega Swampert. We don't even try to use Veil, as that bastard outspeeds Ninetales and uses Waterfall, and if I flinched, then I lose Ninetales for nothing. Instead, I go right to Groudon, and Desolate Land invalidates Waterfall. Swampert can go for nothing but Stealth Rock now, as Solar Beam turns it to atoms. Then Amaria steals a Pokemon from earlier in the rush, Toxapex, and I have to use Mewtwo without a boost. I can't boost at all in this fight, because nothing I have can beat her whole team. But one Psystrike can't kill the Urchin, who Toxics Mewtwo as a parting gift. With it dead, we get Kyogre next. So far, this is all what I'm hoping for. What's awful is that Stealth Rock. It takes half from Talonflame as he comes in, to what is actually Primal Kyogre. But he manages to Tailwind even so, and here's the big reason I needed Kyogre to come out early. So that Groudon can come in after, overwrite Primordial Sea like only he and Rayquaza can do, and turn the fight to Rainbow. He then uses the Tailwind to go first, but one Solar Beam isn't enough, and Groudon loses half his HP to Ice Beam. Solar Beam 2 takes out the Whale, and then my starter is out next. With Tailwind, Mewtwo can return and gain back a lot of lost HP with Drain Punch against it. But this invites another water starter, and one that makes things very difficult if it gets lucky. Primarina. My only chance is to thunder it with Kyogre, but it hits with Moonblast first to almost kill Kyogre. If that reduces special attack, then Primarina doesn't die and this becomes horrible. Yes, no special attack. I didn't kill it anyway. It got paralyzed! Oh my god! That was needed. One more thunder kills it. But yet one more wrinkle appears when Rainbow Field already left, since I had to take an extra turn. Amaria's last is Rotom, and that means my only real chance is Groudon again. Water and electric don't work on Groudon, but he has under half HP. Because of this, I return to Ninetales, who was never hurt in this fight, and she Aurora Veils first. She dies quickly to a critical hit, but holy shit, I'll take that crit happening now than at any other time. I then make damn sure we don't lose this. Eevee also comes in, takes a Will-O-Wisp burn, but Evil Boosts and passes to Groudon. Now, there was no doubt. Groudon fires one Solar Beam and wins. We are so close now. There are only 2 left, and the next one is a fight that should almost be guaranteed. Of course, it's Hardy, the battle that was infamous in my testing with the Burning Field team. He was a monstrous hurdle to overcome that required 3 different strategy videos due to how easily the fight could change right at the beginning. It was all because of how he led with a Mega Aerodactyl and also a Gigalith on Rocky Field. Yeah, Doubles makes one final evil appearance on Fight 17, and holy shit, is it completely heinous. Because Rock Slide is about to fall on your head 700 times. With this team, I am still very nervous about Rock Slide flinches, and the first turn has something that I need if I want to win for sure. Talonflame will Tailwind. That's all he could ever do. It's all about Ninetales. She has to avoid a flinch from Rock Slide, and then has to land 70% accurate Blizzard on Aerodactyl because Gigalith's Sandstream deletes her Hail. She does it! She even hit Gigalith too! My openers both fainted in one turn. That should tell you the kind of hell this fight was like with the Burning Field team. But now, with double speed and Aerodactyl harmed, it allows Mewtwo to arrive and outspeed Aerodactyl to kill it, while Eevee boosts ahead of Gigalith's Rock Slide, avoiding the possibility of flinching there. Then, a Terrakion comes in, which is something that Mewtwo can take out in one Psystrike. Then we pass the boost to Kyogre. No! No! Rock Slide crit Kyogre! Fuck you, Hardy! Even with this team, you're going to steal it all away anyway! Kyogre didn't die, but is now down to only a third, meaning Water Spout has fallen to about base 50 power. The only thing that may save us is the fact that Mewtwo is really fast and can help Kyogre beat down whatever stands up to his worsened Water Spouts, such as the incoming Tyranitar. But incredibly, neither it nor Gigalith could take the first Water Spout. But we now have to deal with the double Lycanroc, which both use Accelerock to kill Kyogre. But Mewtwo got to clock Dusk with Drain Punch, going back to full HP. And all we have to do is beat one more Lycanroc. It goes for its last chance, a way it could steal everything with Rock Slide. No flinch! Mewtwo Drain Punches midday. Horribly shaky battle, and at this point I'm speaking my notes out loud before every action, because we've gotten all the way to the final battle of the boss rush, against Saphira. I have a strategy for her I'm not about to fuck up now. If I lose this, it'll because the game took it away from me itself. And what a wonderful Pokemon for her to start with on Dragon's Den, then fucking Noivern again. You may think this is horrendous, and yes it is. I found out that this asshole needs 2 Ice Beams from Kyogre to die, which tears away far too much health from my whale. But in my testing, I found out something amazing and ridiculous. I would switch right to Kyogre, who would then take the flamethrower Noivern was shooting at Ninetales and take no damage thanks to Primordial Sea. In testing, like I said, it took 2 Ice Beams to kill it, while it used Dragon Pulse on Kyogre. So I realized I can just switch back to Ninetales, which re-triggers Hail and takes a piece off of Noivern, and its Dragon Pulse whiffs as well. And then we repeat these switches about 6 times for absolute safety, and now Noivern only gets to hit Kyogre once before dying to Ice Beam. Kyogre is at half HP from this, showing that if he had to take a second one, there's a very good chance he dies, and Noivern destroys my whole team as it always had in the past. But now, the next Pokemon is Garchomp, to which Ninetales returns and outspeeds to use Veil. She faints after putting up Safeguard, but now, before we go to Eevee, we have to Tailwind and lose Talonflame too. The reason for this, besides giving Eevee the chance to avoid an extra attack, is because otherwise, that attack would be devastating Drake, which was always killing Eevee. Instead, it kills Talonflame, and then Eevee arrives. Garchomp is still faster and lands Outrage. It did not crit. Now Eevee boosts and is faster. He passes to Mewtwo, and Outrage does not crit. And it's right here that Saphira makes it all work amazingly. Right as Mewtwo Mega evolves, Saphira pulls Solaris' ace for Adult Lynn's ace, Hydreigon, and it is predicted and vanquished with Drain Punch. I'm at full HP with Mewtwo, and Saphira brings in her own ace now, Dragonite. It will take 2 hits to kill thanks to Multiscale. I use 1 Psystrike and it Dragon Dances. Then it attacks with extreme speed. No crit. Mewtwo is alive. Dragonite is dead. Garchomp back again. Psystrike it down. Naganadel. Psystrike. One final Pokemon. Mega Altaria. Psystrike goes first. It's not enough. But at that point, I won no matter what. Because even if the Play Rough didn't miss, I would win anyway. Psystrike finishes off the Altaria. We won. The boss rush has been defeated. Had Mewtwo been hit by the Play Rough, he would have fainted. And then Eevee would come in and be the victor with Quick Attack. I tested it. I saw it for myself. And at that HP, Altaria would have fallen just the same. I was so relieved to pull this off, when anything, anytime, could have scuttled it, like the crit and Hardy's fight almost did. Finally, on attempt 42, with the Evo Boost team only taking 8 of those attempts, we have conquered the boss rush. And now it's time for the final twist. The final twist of the knife. Because the creators of this game are pure sadists. They won't let you have this final victory. You ascended this mountain of suffering only to fall to your knees in despair when you are told the horrifying truth. This wasn't the hardest sequence in Pokemon Reborn. This was only the second hardest sequence, because now the attendant tells you to try again on a higher difficulty. Boss Rush 2. When you had thought that you'd beaten everything the game could throw at you, when you stand on the top of the mountain in glory, the gods raise up one more mountain in front of you, twice as tall as this one, and tell you, once more, to try to impress them. And this was where I had reached my limit. I am going to part the curtain now and explain what the real plan had been. Like I said earlier, I did the testing for the first boss rush a long time ago, and had every intention of doing it with the Burning Field team. I had confidence in them to do it, but I knew that the second boss rush was there, smiling deviously 1,000 miles above me, and I knew that the Burning Field team never stood a chance with it. It was only barely able to scrape through every fight of the first boss rush. I needed something else for the second boss rush. The Evo Boost team had always been planned. I was devising it as the final episodes of Postgame were being finished. Evo Boost was never meant to be used for the first boss rush. It was my solution to the second. Then, I found out that not only was Burning Field team not good enough for the first boss rush, not even the original Evo Boost team was. I seriously had to consider whether or not I give up on the first boss rush entirely. Then I came up with the idea that I used legendaries to push the Evo Boost team as hard as I could. The result is what you have just seen. I was able to defeat the boss rush. But boss rush 2 was now a pipe dream. I am simply too inexperienced in competitive Pokemon to come up with anything better than this team. If Evo Boost could lose to the Boss Rush 1 opponents because of a crit, then the Boss Rush 2 teams would stomp all over me. Maybe I ought to explain better. What the fuck even is Boss Rush 2? Well, it's the exact same 18 opponents, but their teams, and a few times their field effects, are different. How different? Well, why don't we start testing the Boss Rush 2 teams again one more time, starting with Julia. Julia doesn't change her field effect. But you remember how her opener was Galvantula? It's Tapu Koko now. Strangely enough, this Tapu is actually worse off hurting Ninetales than Galvantula, which allows me to set up the Veil simply, and then it only chooses the Thunder Punch Eevee, who can't be paralyzed since I use Safeguard too. He then passes the Groudon, and Earthquake kills Tapu Koko and her returning Xurkitree, who is actually not able to outspeed this time since there wasn't a Sticky Web. But then came Zapdos. It can outspeed and hit with extra sensory, but an Eruption actually takes that one down too. Wash Rotom is still on our team, which is Solar Beamed as before. Then Zekrom. You can see that just from this one fight, the Boss Rush 2 teams pull out all the stops. If there were Pokemon that would make a Mono-type team better, they're probably here. Now Zekrom actually doesn't outspeed or tank an Earthquake either, and somehow neither can Mega Manectric outspeed Groudon, and it dies to Earthquake. In that example, even though 4 of her teammates went up in power, I actually only risked failure in one spot. A crit on Eevee. Maybe also on Zapdos critting Groudon, but I think Flamethrower kills it anyway. So on the surface, and when I was testing the first couple teams, I said out loud, why is this easier? Well, actually, it was easier. At first. But then, I kept progressing through the Boss Rush 2 teams, and as I went, on that first night of testing, my confidence continued to drop. The leaders that could trash this team continued to pile up. Inconsistency everywhere, reliance on luck, and what I believed were complete dead ends. Teams that my Evo Boost team could never beat. And again, that's the sad truth. Even if I can beat 17 teams with ease, if even one team is unbeatable, then Boss Rush 2 is unbeatable. And when all 18 teams were tested, I had determined that 6 of them were not possible for my team. It was a real shame, because on one particular fight, I had found the most ridiculous strat. I'll show you that soon, as my mea culpa for giving up. But the next day, I decided I would have to prove it. I would go into the teams that were impassable for Evo Boost and show you exactly why I couldn't win this Boss Rush sequel. So I took on the leader that seemed to be the most impossible, Adrian. And then I found a way to beat them. Well, that's nice, I guess, but there are 5 others. Amaria was also one that was madness. Actually, figured that one out too. Titania was another. Extremely difficult to do anything in that fight. Wait a second. Samson? Luna? And then Radimus? They were all possible to beat. The problem was, this was going to be the worst thing I've ever done in Pokemon. With the exact same team as Boss Rush 1, it may be insurmountable, but Boss Rush 2 begins. And what's good is that I already got Julia out of the way. We go into Florinia now, and you can guess that this sequel match is not going to give me much of a challenge either. It starts this time with Ferrothorn, which is actually great to set up on. First, it lets Ninetales put up both Veil and Safeguard while using Gyro Ball to KO her efficiently. Eevee then is faster naturally, Evo boosts, then watches Ferrothorn throw down 2 sets of spikes after the boost and the pass to Groudon. And then, Groudon outspeeds and one-shots everything Florinia uses. The Ferrothorn, Celebi, Mega Venusaur, Tapu Bulu, Kartana, and Shaman. This fight has no randomness, and Florinia can never defeat my team, marking this the last time I have to show a fight from Florinia. Shelly 2 is similarly very easy to beat. Both she and Florinia kept to Forest Field, making Groudon preferred again. Shelly changes exactly one thing in her second team. Heracross is now Pheromosa. It allows the exact same opening to be possible against her Ribombee. Veil then switch right away while it Quiver Dances. It uses Sticky Web while I boost, take a Bug Buzz hoping for no crit or special defense drop, and pass to Groudon. The problem was, in this attempt, special defense did fall, and that makes Volcarona come out before Pinsir would. It fire blasts Groudon, and if it hits, then he is no longer able to fight beyond Volcarona. He can kill Volcarona still with Flamethrower, but then we have to switch to Talonflame for Pheromosa. That easily kills the Ultra Beast, but Mega Pinsir with its faster priority move can beat Talonflame. I have to make a pretty dangerous move here, going to Kyogre with Thunder, which kills Pinsir, who almost killed Kyogre with a crit, but this also puts out the Fires. The Fires are my way of easily defeating the remaining two, Genesect and Scizor. However, with Ninetales still at full HP, another Aurora Veil starting up lets Frieza go hand-to-hand with Scizor and come out on top, then nearly kill Genesect with one Drain Punch too, before Mewtwo finally faints, letting Talonflame come in with Gale Wings still on and win. If Groudon hadn't lost a special defense stage, then Pinsir would have been easy for Groudon to beat, and the Burning Field would never need to be put out by Kyogre, making this fight pretty much the exact same as Boss Rush 1. We won't need to talk about it again. But what we're going to need to talk about a whole fucking lot is Shade. Because I lied. There weren't 6 teams that nearly made Boss Rush 2 impossible. There were 7. And Shade was that 7th fight. The first time I tested him, I won. With the note, beat Shade, but it was awful. I had no idea how awful it really was. It starts once again with Dawn Wings Necrozma, and boosting on it goes exactly the same. Ninetales Veils, hurts it a bit with Dazzling Gleam, Eevee has to avoid a crit Photon Geyser, becomes faster and passes. But I learned I cannot pass to Mewtwo. Mewtwo does not do it. The only Pokemon that could come reasonably close was Kyogre. He would take a moderate hit from Photon Geyser, then Water Spout killed Necrozma. Marshadow was next, and it hits Kyogre with a crit close combat, nearly killing him, and side note, this fucking ghost has a Focus Sash. In case you couldn't tell, I lose. Kyogre is sniped by Shadow Sneak, and when Talonflame gets it out of the way with Acrobatics, we now have to fight Giratina. A Giratina who tanks 2 Shadow Balls from Mewtwo and kills him with Hexes. Talonflame cleans up another near-death opponent, and once more, that disgusting, unkillable monster, Mimikyu. Acrobatics breaks its disguise, but Shadow Claw rips most of Talonflame's HP away, and Shadow Sneak finishes it before I can hit it again. Groudon can withstand a Swords Dance Shadow Claw after not managing to kill the fucking thing with Earthquake, breaking Dark Crystal Cavern, but then we come to the single Pokemon on this team that checkmates me. Mega Gengar! Mega Gengar is faster than my whole team at base speeds, and will one-shot all of them if they don't have increased defenses. The first attempt in the second boss rush ends at Shade. The second one gets back to him again. What happens if Kyogre isn't crit by Marshadow? Then Marshadow takes 2 Ice Beams to kill, hoping for a freeze, and it both close combats and Shadow Sneaks Kyogre down to 165 HP. And that coaxes out the last of Shade's Boss Rush 2 team, Aegislash. These 6 Pokemon constitute a Rubik's Cube of necessary actions and results in order to barely beat him. In this fight, Aegislash loses over half its HP to Water Spout before Shadow Clawing Kyogre down to Deep Red, making that move useless now. However, even though it has leftovers, Kyogre has just enough power in Thunder to take out the Ghost Sword. That's when Mimikyu comes in and Shadow Sneaks down the rest of Kyogre if he has less than about 55 HP. The best way for me to kill that disguised shit is with Groudon, using Earthquake twice to break the crystals and prepare the ceiling for Cave-In. But collapsing the Cave-In on Giratina won't work right away because it's faster than Groudon. The real strategy is to go to Talonflame, use Tailwind, and hope it killed Talonflame right away. Annoyingly, it only seemed to be able to about half the time. It doesn't really matter too much, because the play would then be to go to Groudon, collapse the ceiling on Giratina, then go to Mewtwo and be faster thanks to Tailwind, and kill Gengar with Psystrike. In this attempt, I do something very dumb. I go back to Mewtwo using Shadow Ball. I'm bailed out massively by a crit which lets me bring the speed boost to Gengar successfully and win the fight. So we beat Shade. And take it from me, we are absolutely going to talk about Shade more. But now it's time for the greatest enemy to the Burning Field team, upgraded Aya. And this is where we find the first field effect change of Boss Rush 2. Aya now uses Wasteland just like her gym fight. And you wouldn't believe how much easier her fight is now. Wasteland is way less detrimental to my team than the constant drops of speed that Swamp incurred. Up front, instead of Nihilego, is Scolipede. You would think that it would be great to put up both Veil and Safeguard with Ninetales, and you'd be right, if she was allowed to. Unfortunately, even though she starts out faster for Veil, Poison Jab does over half to her with it up, and then Scolipede's speed boosts. This means I have to tolerate poison happening this time, but I learned it wouldn't matter. Eevee now comes out, and I'm given yet another reprieve that is so damn important. The Scolipede never attacks Eevee. It only swords dances. I managed to pass to Mewtwo. Now you may be worried about that speed plus 4 stages of attack, but it's actually fine. The Scolipede uses Mega Horn, and it doesn't kill Mewtwo. Psystrike blasts it, and out next is shitty Toxapex again. One Psystrike kills it. Then comes the first Pokemon I would have expected Aya to send. Alolan Muck. This thing is almost too much. Almost, but not quite. One Drain Punch fully kills it. All it can do is Shadow Sneak, and even if that crit there, I don't think that it can kill Mewtwo. Then that fucking Mega Gengar again, who is thrown aside, and 2 Poison Ultra Beasts, Naganadel and Nihilego, who this time gets to just die instead of ruin 20 Boss Rush 1 attempts. It's nice that Aya is easy, because now there's nothing easy about what comes after. Sarah is next, and just like Aya, she changed her field effect to Inverse Field. And worse, it's a doubles fight now. Holy shit. It stacks the deck hard against you using the best inverse type of Ice, and I learned that luck really swings this fight. The first turn sees me putting up Tailwind and Aurora Veil, unlike her opposing Alolan Ninetales, while it and Articuno slam us with Blizzards that killed Ninetales and almost killed Talonflame. It is now very important to hit Articuno with Acrobatics before Talonflame dies, while Eevee goes for Evo Boost. Guess what? Snow Cloak on Articuno. Acrobatics missed. Eevee takes 2 Blizzards and lives, which by the way, have to both not crit and not freeze and steal a turn. Now comes the critical moment. Kyogre has to be out here now, so his reign starts first. Eevee then passes to Groudon. This means Inverse is gone, and we have a Rainbow now, while Groudon's Sun took over from Kyogre. It is only because I am using both Primals that this strategy even works, but I have to be so careful planning which Primal comes out when. But then, it all falls apart. Articuno was supposed to take damage from Acrobatics so that Kyogre would be able to kill it with Ice Beam, but since Acrobatics never hit it, I have to go for Thunder now that Electric is super effective on it again. That also missed. And then, Sarah shows how nothing is safe in Boss Rush 2. She hits Groudon with Shadow Ball, then Hurricane, which confuses Groudon, making him hit himself, and then Articuno set up Aurora Veil. Groudon lost a third of his health already, but even with their Veil, Eruption kills the 2 Ice types. It won't kill the next 2 Ice types, which are both White and Black Kyurem. In the meantime, Groudon is still confused, but fires an Eruption out that actually crits and kills Black Kyurem, but White Kyurem lives it and Ice Beam, but incredibly missed its Draco Meteor. Glaceon then joins Kyurem, but Groudon was able to shake off confusion, and Eruption floors both of Sarah's Pokemon. Her final one, right when Rainbow faded to return us to Inverse, is Weavile. But it popped a seed for a Quint boost and recharge. I think that this is in the bag now, until I use Earthquake, which went before Kyogre went, and killed him, without killing Weavile! Oh fuck! Mewtwo comes out, now I think. Weavile cannot possibly kill both of us, so either Mewtwo will hit it, or Groudon will hit it even if it also kills Mewtwo with Earthquake. Weavile ended up missing Icicle Crash, and Earthquake downed Sarah's last teammate. That was not pretty. There's a shitload of things that can go wrong there. Not quite as much as possible to go awry in the next fight with Null. He opens with his Porygon Z now, but I found that in order to kill this fucker, I had to Dazzling Gleam it with Ninetales out of the gate. It would do nearly half, which was necessary as its Z conversions, becoming Psychic type and getting a Quint boost. Then Veil up, and when Ninetales dies, switch to Kyogre. Kyogre's Thunder is the best choice here, killing Porygon Z as long as its Psychic doesn't crit Kyogre. Then came Chansey. In most cases this would be horrible, but I knew that Eevee was pretty safe to set up there. But unfortunately, this is when one of the things can go wrong, and it frustrated me a lot because it's easy to repair. It tries to Toxic Eevee, but fails. I Evo Boost, then I Baton Pass first next turn. The problem was, it fired off another Toxic, which then stuck to Mewtwo. This shouldn't have happened, and it has instantly ruined the fight. Mewtwo easily kills Chansey with Drain Punch, but Null has the perfect counter up next. Unaware Clefable. All those stat ups are meaningless to it, and one Psy Strike, or in this case Hidden Power Steel, doesn't kill Clefable, who responds and kills Mewtwo with Moonblast, who had lost too much HP, whereas he'd almost always survive it otherwise. Even though Groudon can beat Clefable, his Pyroar beats Groudon, kills Talonflame as Tailwind starts, then dies to Water Spout. But the damn singer Pokemon Meloetta can tank a Water Spout at the HP Kyogre has, and finish him with Psyshock. All I have left is Eevee, who can quick attack down Meloetta, only to be defeated by Mega Pidgeot. What poor play. The answer to a missed Toxic on Eevee is to substitute, which will make the second Toxic fail and push Chansey off trying that again. Then, when I pass to Mewtwo, it'll Seismic Toss, breaking the sub, but Mewtwo gets rid of Chansey after and gains back all of its lost HP. Now, I have to go back to the beginning. On this pass-through, Shade's fight went pretty good because we got a lucky freeze on Marshadow, only to then get to Aya right after and Scolipede crit Megahorn to kill my boosted Mewtwo. That's it. That's the one chance Aya has to beat me. I just fall behind after that, losing Pokemon faster than she does, and speaking of fast, Mega Gengar is on that team too, and we don't even see it before my sweepers all fall. Remember how I said Shade was someone we'd talk about again? Well, he has a pain-in-the-ass tendency to get crits! His Aegislash kills my half HP Kyogre in a Shadow Claw. After that, we can beat it with Earthquake, but it's always Giratina who shows up here after. There's a Giratina, Mimikyu, and Gengar left. I have to use Tailwind to kill both Giratina and Gengar in time, but Mimikyu makes this impossible. There are not enough turns to make use of. There aren't even enough using the Cave Collapse to kill Giratina. Mimikyu appears first, we Tailwind, but it Swords Dances, meaning it will tear through Mewtwo anyway, surviving a Shadow Ball. On the next attempt, we get back to Shade again, and this was before I really knew what I was doing against him. When Aegislash comes out to a half HP Kyogre, I instead went to Groudon, which made a Rainbow, and then the first eruption to hit Aegislash killed it. And now, Giratina is even more of a problem, because we can't even collapse a cave on it right now. It is a perfect counter to Groudon, resistant to Fire and Solar Beam, and immune to Earthquake. Never mind the fact that it outspeeds Groudon and one-shots him with Dragon Pulse. The next attempt gets to Shade and loses almost exactly the same after Kyogre was crit by a Shadow Sneak from Marshadow, making him useless against Mimikyu, and the entire script goes down the drain because of it. Attempt 7 let me get past Shade again finally, and return to Null. This time, Toxic lands on Eevee first try, so it uses Seismic Toss, which hits Mewtwo. That's fine. We regain all that HP when we Drain Punch it, and now, here's what happens with Clefable. Psystrike brings it to a sliver, and so does Moonblast bring Mewtwo down to 13 HP. But we go first, kill it, then Drain Punch Mega Pidgeot, Meloetta, and Pyroar without a second thought. So yeah, Null shouldn't give me any trouble. The only time it should go wrong is if Porygon Z crits Kyogre. Other than Shade and maybe Sarah, most of these opponents so far have had few moments where they can actually break in and stop me. That stops now, because we have come to the villain of this episode. The actual worst bastard and most horrible team of either boss rush. Fucking Radimus. So, you remember his boss rush 1 team? Yeah, that team is pretty much all gone. The only Pokemon he maintained from the previous rush is Lunala. He replaced everything else with the most unbelievable assortment of Psychic-type legendaries you can get. I almost didn't do this second boss rush because of Radimus. And at this moment, I don't know if we're going to win it at all because of him. He leads with Unbound Hoopa, which sounds bad when I have no bug moves to use, but Hoopa is actually the means to dismantle another Pokemon on his team. How fucking ever, Hoopa is actually his most infuriating Pokemon. Not because it can kill me, but because it sometimes can't kill me, or kills faster than I expected, such as on this very first attempt to Radimus, where I have to use Dazzling Gleam first to hurt it, because Aurora Veil has to extend the full 5 turns past Ninetales fainting. And then its Gunk Shot hits Ninetales and poisons her, so she never put up the veil at all. Over. Don't mind what you see, thinking things are okay. They're not. I go to Groudon, which was supposed to be the next play, and Hoopa switches, which was also supposed to happen. It was not supposed to switch to Speed Deoxys. Hey, we one-shot it on the switch. Yeah, well, here's Lunala now. Not on the switch like it should have been, where it would have been hit by a max eruption to lose enough HP despite Shadow Shield that it dies to another even after hitting Groudon once. Now instead, I throw away Talonflame for Tailwind to force the same behavior anyway, which by the way loses me the fight further, and we actually still don't kill in 2 eruptions this time. Lunala can be beaten by Mewtwo's Shadow Ball, but now, Lugia. Go fuck yourself, Radimus. Lugia is meant to be defeated by Kyogre, but it should have lost some HP first to Mewtwo hitting with Shadow Balls. Trying to save Mewtwo in this disaster has Kyogre stall out against the fucking Silver Legendary Roosting, making it no longer weak to Thunder, as the Toxic it gave Kyogre wastes him away. We barely got Lugia down low enough and paralyzed it that Mewtwo can beat it. And that only gets me Ultra Necrozma. Death. Radimus is the most heinous, inconsistent, and maddening battle in Boss Rush 2, and what horrifies me is, it's not much better after him. And that's not counting incremental chipping away at my sanity, when Julia's Tapu Koko does land that Thunder Punch crit on Eevee, and no boost goes through, leading to Groudon being thoroughly massacred. After that, we do get back to Radimus, and the expected strategy is fucked up immediately again on the first attack. This time, Hoopa used Zen Headbutt and missed. I foolishly don't use Safeguard first, trying to wait for it to hit Ninetales and instead use the Veil, and eventually kill Hoopa with Ninetales. Nothing has gone right again. It makes it so the last hideous Pokemon on this team came out now, making it easy to deal with. And that is Frieza. Yeah, Mega Mewtwo X is not unique to me anymore. Fortunately, Talonflame with Flying Gem Acrobatics and nothing less can one-shot Mewtwo first. But it's time for an unabated Lunala again. Unlike the Lunala on Radimus' first Boss Rush team, this one is holding leftovers, which means chipping it with Hail to remove Shadow Shield is not an option anymore. What was terrible is that my Aurora Veil hadn't yet faded, so Ninetales was thrown away for nothing, and now the Veil is gone. Groudon is utterly decimated by Lunala, and even with no Shadow Shield, Mewtwo somehow does not kill with Shadow Ball! Why the fuck not? Mewtwo dies. Talonflame can barely scrape it away with Prio Acrobatics, then take away about a quarter from Lugia before being taken down. That brings us to the strategy for Kyogre to beat Lugia. He has to get a Thunder Paralysis. Yes, that's actually the strat, at least for now. I have no idea how else to beat it while dealing with everything else. The reason for that paralysis is that makes Kyogre faster, and then we can combo down Lugia with Water Spout after all we did was Toxic Kyogre. However, in this attempt, we get one better and just crit the Lugia with Thunder and kill. And Ultra Necrozma is here to utterly annihilate you unless you follow an exact pathway through the fight, where after Kyogre hits it with an Ice Beam that never gets it below that last pixel, it uses Swords Dance, which kills Kyogre, and then you must kill with Eevee or Talonflame. All this while Speed Form Deoxys was still remaining. I knew, attempting Boss Rush 2, this was going to happen. Fucking Radimus was going to push my sanity to the brink. And it's not like back-to-back Radimus attempts are really expected. Not when we get to Sarah, who once again got her Articuno to survive to Hurricane Groudon, confusing him, making him lose a turn and too much HP, such that when both Kyurems show up, Groudon can't beat either one, Groudon dies, Kyogre is on 1 HP, then a Rock Slide makes Mewtwo flinch while one Kyurem died to Life Orb. Inverse Field returned, Kyurem stood up to Eevee, critting him with a Quick Attack, and a Quint-boosted Weavile lived a Psy Strike, rendering Mewtwo 1-on-2 and losing. Attempt number 11 and number 3 against Radimus. It goes wrong again. Hoopa missed Gunk Shot. I beg for it to hit and poison on the second attack. It doesn't poison. Hoopa kills Ninetales the next turn, and Aurora Veil has already bled a turn I can't afford. However, it finally makes the strat happen, where Groudon comes in, scares away Hoopa, Eruption hits for almost half on Lunala, then Groudon takes little enough from Moongeist Beam to kill with a second Eruption. The next Pokemon is now Deoxys, and there's only one way I can beat this thing unless it switches in like we saw earlier, which will never happen. Mewtwo goes out and has to avoid being flinched by Dark Pulse. Yes, another raw luck event has to go my way. In this attempt, it did, but the script is messed up. Aurora Veil ran out, and you might think Mewtwo coming out next is good. It lets Talonflame kill it easily, but the reason behind the Veil lasting long enough is that it lets Lugia come out to a low Mewtwo of my own, but it can't kill Mewtwo in one attack, letting 2 Shadow Balls weaken it enough that we have a decent chance of killing with Kyogre even if Thunder doesn't paralyze. Instead, in this attempt, Kyogre never paralyzes, and Water Spout diminishes turn over turn until he faints, and Lugia is impossible to beat now. Radimus attempt number 4. Hoopa missed again! This time on the second attack when I had no way of correcting for it. Hoopa feeds Lunala to Groudon, Deoxys shows up, doesn't make my Mewtwo flinch, his Mewtwo dies to Talonflame, throw away both Talonflame and Mewtwo to do a bit of damage to Lugia and start Tailwind, and actually kill Lugia with 1 Water Spout. Then Tailwind stops, and Hoopa kills Groudon and almost Kyogre except for a miss. Yeah, here's the thing about that fucking Hoopa. It also murders my team with ease, and the only way I can kill it is with Talonflame hitting it with Acrobatics, which does enough to its puny defense to take its last 2/3. Do you see the pattern now? Talonflame cannot die. It has to stay alive for everything while staying at full HP. Anyway, Kyogre at 6 HP and Eevee can do nothing to Ultra Necrozma again. And yet another attempt gets right back to Radimus, and this time, Ninetales fainted right after it used Aurora Veil. Now Lunala dies, Deoxys is out, we don't flinch, extra turn of Aurora Veil. Mewtwo gets 2 Shadow Balls on it. Mewtwo faints, then Kyogre is toxicked, but he gets the Thunder Paralysis. Lugia is Water Spouted down. We finally had the intended strategy get this far, but we're definitely not done. Now comes the most annoying part about all this. Hoopa is coming back now. Like I said, my only Pokemon that kills it is Talonflame. But this costs me the Flying Gem, and now the enemy Frieza is no longer a one-shot. But that comes after Ultra Necrozma again. Only if Kyogre has nearly max HP does Necrozma use Swords Dance first turn, so that Kyogre can Ice Beam it, if only it were enough. Kyogre dies, and once again Talonflame can come in and fell another huge legendary, and must do the majority of the work on the last one. Mega Mewtwo X is last, and Talonflame acrobatics it to bring it to deep red. Deep enough that Eevee's quick attack is enough to kill it, and we finally beat him once. Fuck you, Radimus. This fight enrages me, and I know that my chance to win Boss Rush 2 improves the most after he is defeated, but we are so far from safe. We aren't even at the halfway mark yet. We have to defeat Luna for that. And like last time, Luna uses the same field effect, New World, which prevents me from using Aurora Veil. Because of this, the optimal way to proceed, believe it or not, is to do nothing to her opening Mega Tyranitar. Safeguard over and over until it kills Ninetales, because otherwise it'll attack Eevee directly if it has less than full HP. Now you may ask, why not kill Tyranitar? The thing is, I definitely can, and then I lose, no matter what. Because her second Pokemon then is Yveltal, and there is no setting up against it or killing it. It completely obliterates me. I have one opportunity to set up on Tyranitar, and that is when Eevee is standing here innocently, and that pseudo begins Dragon Dancing, sensing not the slightest bit of threat from the unevolved normal type. But because it does 2 Dragon Dances, when I pass to Kyogre, it is able to go first on the next turn with a crunch, which really hurts. Fortunately, Kyogre has enough HP left that Water Spout kills the Mega, which then, like every other scenario I tested, brings out Yveltal next. But its own Seed Quint boost is flimsy compared to my double boost, and because it had to recharge, we knock it out in 1 Ice Beam for free. Now comes Greninja, who is difficult to do anything to. At first, I believed I had to roll the dice on hitting Thunder with no rain. Then I learned Greninja cannot fire back with enough power to take the rest of Kyogre's life. So the answer is 2 Ice Beams in a row to beat my starter, only to then get that fucking troll from the last fight we just barely escaped. Unbound Hoopa. 1 Ice Beam nearly beats him here, but not quite. However, Talonflame has a simple time acrobating down the Jin, leaving him with one more duty. Tailwind against Hydreigon and die, such that Mewtwo appears after and one-shots both it and Darkrai with Drain Punch. Perfect. Got more than one fight further on this personal best attempt. And that's all I reasonably expect, because once again, we have a team that can be easily destroyed by Samson. Why? It all comes down to the very beginning of the fight against his Terrakion. We just want to put up Aurora Veil and deal some damage. But it's not about what Terrakion does against Ninetales, it's about what happens on the first turn against Kyogre. Terrakion will do one of 2 things, from everything I could tell. It could use close combat, or it instantly wins the fight with Stealth Rock. And it fucking used Stealth Rock, and there is nothing I can do. This almost made me quit. I was upset. I didn't want to do this anymore. I was so angry. I have no control over which move it decides to use. It will choose one of those 2, and though my testing seemed to suggest it goes for close combat more often, there was nothing I could do to guarantee it. Why is Stealth Rock GG for me? Because he still has Hawlucha, and a Pheromosa to boot. If Talonflame comes out here, he loses half his HP instantly. Once that happens, Hawlucha is unbeatable. I brought Talonflame to this Evo Boost team from the Burning Field team almost entirely because of Samson, and he can Stealth Rock right there and end the whole run. There's nothing I can do now. Eevee never got to Evo Boost on Mega Lucario, Kyogre was thrown away, and Groudon got hit with a weak result to return literal fire. Pheromosa comes out next though, who is also too fast for anything. Mewtwo is outsped for U-turn, but he lived that to Psystrike down Marshadow for free. But Pheromosa comes back, Groudon dies, and Talonflame collides with some mid-air rocks and is useless against it. Remarkably, Mewtwo survived one more attack still, yet here it is, Hawlucha. It's not like I don't know its power and speed. It was supposed to be my sweeper in the Lyn final boss first round. Now you see the horrible matter at hand. I have to somehow beat Radimus again, which requires a lot of luck, and then I have to just get lucky next time with no Stealth Rock. I tested it so much after this, but it doesn't matter. I can't do anything to remove the Stealth Rocks with this team, and I don't have enough time to change the field effect away from Big Top long enough to keep Hawlucha from unburdening. All we can do is fight through everything again, and pray first for beating Radimus. And incredibly, we managed to do it again. It even happened on an attempt where Hoopa missed a gunk shot at the beginning of the fight, so we had one less turn of Aurora Veil when Deoxys died, meaning Mewtwo came out before Lugia. Radimus victories almost always come down to first chance Thunder Paralysis. If I paralyze Lugia on the first shot of Thunder, then we pretty much win. If Kyogre takes even one more hit than that, then Necrozma attacks him instead of Swords Dancing and Kyogre dies, after which I have no answers to it. So attempt number 2 against Samson. Does Terrakion screw me over? No. It gets a powerful close combat, but that's not enough to kill Kyogre or stop its water spout from killing Terrakion. Good. Now we have the correct path. Pheromosa comes out right away now, and Talonflame can easily scythe down the Ultra Beast. It leads into Lucario next, and unlike Boss Rush 1, I have to fight this battle without an Evo boost. This should always be fine, as when I put Mewtwo out in front of Lucario, it goes for Swords Dance, one Drain Punch with anything but a weak Striker result being enough to kill Lucario. Marshadow must be defeated by Groudon and his insane defense, otherwise it can kill Mewtwo or hurt Talonflame, and we can't have either of those. Groudon flamethrowers the Mythical down after taking a fucking massive close combat that brought him to 7. But because of this, we win. Como-O is next, and is outsped in one shot by Psystrike. Finally, that damn Hawlucha again. I have a Gale Wings Acrobatics for you. Done. Now, we have still 8 more fights left, in which horrible luck can steal this all away. Fortunately, Charlotte appears to not be a fight I can ever lose with this team. You may wonder how that is when she starts with Primal Groudon and Heatran. Well, that's simply it. She starts with Primal Groudon. She also changed her field effect to Superheated Field like her gym, which actually does give her a horrible advantage over plain Burning Field in that I can't Tailwind it out. But I can set up Tailwind first turn with a Safeguard, then my side dies. After that point, I cannot be stopped. Kyogre comes out, and thanks to that, Groudon's Desolate Land is overwritten. Had Groudon been tucked away in her party, then it could come out later and take away my Primordial Sea. As well, her field effect is erased. We have a Rainbow now, and it's time to bring the Rain Pain. Mega Mewtwo comes in at the same time to assist, but for the most part, Kyogre Water Spouts and drowns Kyogre, Heatran after protected once, Ho-Oh, Reshiram, Volcarona, and Blaziken. As far as I can tell, unless she has some super rare time she pulls Groudon out early, this fight has a 100% success rate. But the doubles pain and the head pain continues with Terra. She's still in the desert, thank God she didn't switch to Glitch, and now her Landorus is up front with Hippowdon. Now you may find this awfully strange, but it is better to have Ninetales hit them both with Blizzard instead of using Veil while my Tailwind starts. It's because Eevee is going to be hit by Landorus for way too much, unless Mewtwo goes faster than it and kills, meaning Eevee boosts before Hippowdon can hit it. Then look, here's Primal Groudon again, at the exact right time. This is great, because Eevee is actually faster than it, so we pass before it can try hitting us, and though it hurts us with Precipice Blades, it's not enough to forestall Kyogre blasting through everything again with Water Spout. Groudon and the Hippo, Mega Garchomp and Zygarde, despite not being weak, and Excadrill. Beautiful. We're in the final third of the hardest challenge in this game. It's too bad that Ciel is yet more doubles, but this time the fight might be a bit more controllable than Boss Rush 1 Ciel. You wouldn't think so, considering she starts with fucking Lugia and Landorus. However, here's a sick piece of luck in my favor. I fire Blizzard first turn to freeze Lugia. Meanwhile, Landorus should always die to that here. I didn't use Tailwind first turn because that would reduce the ice damage right away against all flying types on the field here on Mountain, and because Lugia is using that in return. But it doesn't get to use anything, as it stays frozen. Its Gen 2 counterpart shows up with it though. Ho-Oh. Now is the time to Tailwind, because my side is slated to die here. We also get Veil up now, which could go up regardless of if Talonflame lost his Gale Wings or not, because Snowy Mountain enables it anyway. But what's actually bad here is that Ho-Oh doesn't do a lot to my side, and Lugia stayed frozen. We're still both alive. This isn't good. I need to switch to Kyogre and Groudon. We actually go first with Talonflame despite him being paralyzed because the strong winds reactivates his Gale Wings, then almost kill Ho-Oh with Acrobatics, then fortunately find it with a now inaccurate Blizzard. Now joining the frozen Lugia is Yveltal. I hate that. And then we freeze that one too. This is nutty and unreasonable. Forget everything you're seeing in this attempt. If we have to fight Ciel again, it will look nothing like this. That damn Lugia survives another Acrobatics and Blizzard hit, while Yveltal goes down. Now Shaman joins it. But everything went against me that turn. Talonflame lost its turn to Paralysis this time, and Blizzard only did half the Shaman. It kills Talonflame with Air Slash, and now I have to figure out who the hell is coming out here. I decided it will be Mewtwo, but then I find something terrible. I ran out of Blizzards. I never expected to need more than the base 5, so now I have to use Dazzling Gleam. Because of that, though Lugia finally died spending its entire life frozen, Shaman lived and hurt Mewtwo bad with Ominous Wind. Shaman's last ally then appears next to it, Mega Salamence. It's miserable that I ran out of Blizzards because I would run them over completely. Instead, Mewtwo is outsped and finished off, and I have to go for Aurora Veil instead to help stay alive. I go into my last Ice Attack user, Kyogre, as Shaman kills Ninetales and a painful return hits Kyogre, but we beat Shaman. This is too close. I have to bring out Eevee to try to Evo Boost, but awfully, Salamence went for the bigger current threat, not caring about Eevee, and Kyogre faints before he can finish the job. The Evo Boost goes off, but there's no one left to pass to. Eevee will just have to fight the Pseudo with Groudon. But Groudon was the last Pokemon I wanted to use to this point. Had that been Shaman remaining, I would have an easy time, but I killed the wrong one earlier. I'm deathly afraid I've lost all of this now, because the fight went so far off the rails. Quick Attack only does a little, while Groudon loses over half to return, and does so little with Flamethrower. He never gets to hit Salamence again, leaving only Eevee to beat the dragon on his own. But there's definitely more than one quick attack of HP there, and Salamence now rushes at Eevee with return. What? He lived it? Can Eevee topple the Mega Salamence? Oh my god, he did it! All on his own! Eevee beat the Mega, standing alone on the top of the mountain. Amazing job, Eevee! That was bullshit in both directions, and I somehow miraculously won that. What an insane fight! But now, we move into the gym leader I thought would be the actual worst one in the second rush, Adrian. And unlike last time, Adrian continues the doubles fight train of the last 3 fights. Even worse, they turn their field effect into Fairy Tail now! Fortunately, I had come up with a way to handle it, so we need to start with Safeguard with Ninetales and Tailwind with... What? What the hell is this? Where's the doubles fight? Are you kidding me? This was a gut punch of a discovery. The second boss rush has a bug. Adrian's fight in practice puts their team in doubles. In the actual boss rush 2, it uses singles instead. Adrian only has Ninetales out in front of mine, and the chance I win this is basically 0. I have never practiced this fight as is. I have no choice but to improvise, which starts with Aurora Veil and Safeguard, as it does a Veil too and hurts with Dazzling Gleam. But I've already made a mistake. I should have tried to put up the Veil at the last possible moment so that Eevee would have a good chance to survive and boost. Unfortunately, Ninetales instead stays and eventually faints to Adrian's, only one turn of my Veil remaining. And then disastrously, Ninetales used Dark Pulse against Mewtwo, and he flinched. His Steadfast boosts his speed so he can then kill Ninetales with a brand new hidden power Steel I brought for this fight, which I'm no longer convinced will matter at all, especially not against what's next. Magearna. It has to be all in for Eevee, so I go to Talonflame to Tailwind, except it used Volt Switch, didn't kill, and switched to Xerneas now instead. That's horrible. Eevee will never survive an onslaught from that. I chomped most of its HP with Acrobatics, only for it to eat a berry and gain back half of its health, then kill Talonflame. But I'm shown one tiny act of mercy. Xerneas Geomancied against Eevee, letting the boost go off. Better, it has to charge it, so Eevee also passes it before it is ready to attack again. But disaster strikes and ruins me. Xerneas' boost and speed kept it ahead of Kyogre, who was hit by Thunder and paralyzed. As such, the incoming Tapu Lele is able to run Kyogre down, leaving him powerless to use the boost he was given. Mewtwo was needlessly tossed away as well, as I went to Groudon and found Lele could only Nature's Madness away half of his life. But Groudon was left to face 3 more fairy types, starting with Sylveon. He's actually able to beat it, but in 2 hits, he has less than 100 HP left. Then, Mega Gardevoir. Our run has come to an end. Gardevoir is faster and defeats me. This is so unbelievably aggravating. I didn't even do anything wrong. I prepared for the fight I was supposed to expect, and instead, it changes the format and I lose. I'm now worried if any of the other 4 fights after will do the same thing. This could have done me in. I wasn't sure how I'd deal with this, but I wasn't ready to give up. I figured if I could get there again, if Radimus and Samson just let one more chance through, I had enough ideas for how I could beat Adrian. Now that I had found that Xerneas simply lets Eevee set up. If that can happen again, and we don't get paralyzed, then we may be able to bowl through the rest of that team. Then came the drought, a period of attempts meant to break my spirit, starting with the revelation I never wanted. On Radimus's Lunala, it can survive Groudon's second eruption on a range. This finally demonstrates why we need Aurora Veil to last long enough, because since Lugia came out directly after Lunala, it meant Deoxys came way later, at which point I could not kill it. Mewtwo dies in 1 hit, and Talonflame is outsped because it has extreme speed. Then, Shade returned. He took an attempt off me when Aegislash hurt Kyogre too much for him to fight Mimikyu, and I forgot to give up Eevee first to avoid the rainbow that makes it impossible to kill Giratina fast. I had to use Tailwind too early, and by the time I got to Gengar, Tailwind was gone. I lost. Another attempt to Radimus. We suffered the first flinch from Dark Pulse against my Mewtwo. Surprisingly, this isn't what killed me. It was when Mewtwo appeared last, and I used Acrobatics on it for most of its HP. And then, it had still too much HP for Eevee to beat it with Quick Attack. That upset me. Now Radimus's fight had been shown to be even harder and more luck-reliant than I thought. Then Shade came back and tore me down again. All because Kyogre and Mimikyu fell at the same time, I had to make a blind switch. I made it my weak Eevee to coax out Gengar. This lets me Tailwind and kill with Mewtwo, is the sentence I should have said. Instead, I was too worried about the fact that Dark Crystal Cavern was still up, so I went to Groudon to Earthquake to both kill Gengar and the field effect. Gengar fled for Giratina, on which my Earthquake whiffed. By the time Giratina died, so did my Tailwind and attempt 18. Shade stole another immediately after by critting Kyogre, an unrecoverable event. Finally, on attempt 20, we not only finally broke away from Shade, but then went on to perform a perfect fight on Radimus, doing exactly what my strategy asks for, even going above and beyond by getting a freeze on Ultra Necrozma, to then have Kyogre left for Mewtwo, who with a Tailwind at his back, water spouts Frieza to death. Then Luna was beaten again with no issues. Then Samson crit my Kyogre with Terrakion. It's over, I thought. Except that, when I brought out Mewtwo next, it then didn't use Stealth Rock, and actually missed Stone Edge. I then discovered my strategy is solid enough to do the rest without Kyogre. I killed Marshadow, then both Pheromosa and Hawlucha before Lucario even showed up, who couldn't kill Talonflame with extreme speed, taking a bunch of damage. It became very dicey though, as Groudon died right away to Lucario. Then Mewtwo, who would have had so much less life had he taken the Stone Edge, then got hit by only an okay striker result Meteor Mash, lived, and beat Lucario, leaving only Como-O who can't do anything. Wow, thank goodness. I got through that even though I was crit at the worst possible time. But this was not the victorious boss rush attempt. The second time through Samson, and I lost again. How? In the worst way possible. Not by a crit, not by a flinch, not by a miss, not by a range, not by any mechanic, and not, as I first believed, by a play mistake. I lost to Terra. Infuriatingly, fittingly, to a glitch. The fight was proceeding correctly, where Ninetales and Talonflame both fainted after the first turn, hitting them with Blizzard and starting a Tailwind. Eevee and Mewtwo came out next, and yet again, we just have to kill Landorus with Mewtwo so Eevee can boost. Except, when Eevee's turn came, he didn't boost. He used Last Resort only. The Z-move activation didn't happen. At the time, I believed I had missed the key to use the Z-move. Then I viewed this footage and found out no, I did press the button. Here is the undeniable evidence, and yet, no Evo boost. Eevee isn't able to boost on the next turn, dying to Groudon along with Mewtwo, and then I discovered something else that ruined my last chance. My only two Pokemon left are Kyogre and Groudon, and I believe that the way they worked, they have equal speed, so whichever one comes out on the right is second, and their weather would trigger last. I put Kyogre on the right, where Mewtwo was. And then Kyogre came out first, causing Rain to be first, and Groudon's Sun overrode it, losing the fight for me since I could no longer Water Spout Terra's side. I lose from there on. So you'd have two questions. First, why did Kyogre come out on the right first? Because the Pokemon he was replacing, Mewtwo, was faster than Eevee. I didn't even know that's how this worked. And more importantly, why did the Evo boost not happen? Well, I tested this scenario again. Eevee and Mewtwo together, Mewtwo Mega Evolves, and then Eevee targets Mega Mewtwo with the Z move. I explained earlier why I was targeting my own ally with the Z move, but I was annoyed when in testing, even targeting a Pokemon that then Mega Evolves didn't cause the failure we just saw. But then I noticed one more aspect of the turn that went wrong. Before I entered my choice of Psystrike for Mewtwo on an enemy, I hit cancel once, which put me back in the move selection before picking the attack again and finally confirming. And that one single cancel did it. I was able to replicate this glitch again, Last Resort happening instead of Evo Boost, as if the one cancel I did went back and canceled the Z move activation. Unbelievable. If I had to guess, this is probably fixed in 19.5. Morale was at the lowest point then. I thought at the time I threw away a unicorn of a chance, having got past Samson again. No matter what the cause, I was now back at the beginning, trudging up this endless mountain again, and the drought continues. Shade outwits me when the Kyogre Mimikyu double KO happens again, and then he immediately crushes my spirit again with a crit on Kyogre before he even beat Dawn Wings. The suffering continues when after finally defeating Shade again in attempt 23, That attempt ends in the very next fight to Aya, where Mewtwo is crit by Megahorn once again. Now we've returned to Radimus. Mewtwo is crit by Deoxys and beaten. And then somehow, I win this fight. By doing something in it that I haven't done once. Use Extreme Evo Boost! Yeah, it turns out, in this exact circumstance, where I bring out Eevee in front of Deoxys with a Veil turn left, then it will leave! Lugia comes in, by which point Eevee boosted, and then Lugia only Toxics while I pass to Kyogre. Even though a Thunder still doesn't kill a multi-scaled Lugia, it was paralyzed and only poisoned Kyogre. Ultra Necrozma was bowled the fuck down by one Ice Beam now. Kyogre had just enough health and special defense to survive a Psycho Boost from Deoxys, then stand up tall with 3 HP to blast down Hoopa for me too. That leaves only Frieza, and I still have a Flying Gem to tear it apart with. Once more past Radimus, and it is taken away. Stealth Rock on Samson's fight. Game over. Shade then continues to steal my hope. Marshadow critting Kyogre, and the entire fight falling apart from then on. Then immediately after, Eevee is crit down. And a third fucking time in a row! This time, Talonflame tailwinds after killing Mimikyu since Gengar came out first. Then when Mewtwo lined up a Psystrike like always, it bails. Giratina comes out instead and wastes the entire tailwind. Gengar wins now. Then Brick Wall 2, the one wearing the funny hat, takes away the next attempt that actually escapes Shade. Everything was fine until Lugia, when it wasn't paralyzed by Thunder, so it took an extra water spout and hurt Kyogre in the process. If I'm using the practice strategy, then the Thunder is non-negotiable. It means Necrozma can't be hit by Kyogre now unless I give up Talonflame for Tailwind. But even so, Kyogre's Ice Beam doesn't kill Necrozma, Groudon can beat it, then get one Flamethrower on Mewtwo X. It isn't enough. Even though Groudon lives a Drain Punch, he's then slower with no Tailwind and can't survive another. Radimus then wins again in the exact same way because of fucking Lugia! God damn it, Radimus! Then once again Shade gets a crit, and there's nothing I can do. Back to Radimus once more, and I decide I can't take it anymore. The current strategy is fucking trash, and I need to see, does Lugia allow Eevee to boost on that last turn of Veil? It does. It only uses Toxic instead of Striking, which means Eevee can easily survive to pass it off. Now Kyogre dodged a Toxic for him and paralyzed. Everything fell into place this time, with Kyogre even being able to kill Mewtwo with a Water Spout. Of course, this doesn't mean shit until we get past Samson. Defeating Luna as before, here we go again. Terrakion. Close combat or Stealth Rock? Close combat! But the fight goes bad. Lucario survived Talonflame and beat it. Then, it got a nice result with Meteor Mash and one-shot Mewtwo. I go for one last gambit, switching to my defensive Groudon, then immediately to Kyogre to make Rainbow give me reprieve from Big Top. Because of that, Lucario cannot get a Striker bonus to help him beat Groudon. He'll do it with a crit instead! Fuck yourself! Eevee's all I have left. Holy shit! Eevee did it again! That's insane! Lucario only had a chunk of HP left, but it's Steel type against Eevee's quick attack. It was thanks to the 2 defense drops it got from close combats that Eevee got me this scarily close win. 100% chance to beat Charlotte again, then back to where I made the blunder. This time, the Z move actually worked, when it could have failed again had I messed around with canceling on Mewtwo's turn. Though this time, Mewtwo died to Precipice Blades, and here's the threat. My Groudon cannot come out now that Kyogre is here. If he does, Water Spout is gone, and I have to Ice Beam everything. But Eevee yet again comes in clutch to hold the second spot while Kyogre does all the work. That means we finally got back to Ciel, and this time, the actual strat is performed. Landorus dies to one Blizzard like before, but Lugia didn't freeze. It means that it will Tailwind first, so I have to put up my own Tailwind to cancel it out, though both Ninetales and Talonflame faint before my second Blizzard could fire. This is okay, because this is where we bring out the Primals one after another, and it must be first Groudon, then Kyogre. Ninetales is actually 3 speed more than Talonflame, so its switch comes first. That means the Reins went out, And all we have to do is fire off Water Spout while Lugia and Yveltal fully occupy themselves killing Groudon. It kills the Y legendary, but not the silver one, and it is joined by the gold one. But things go down a bad path already. A thunder landed on Kyogre and paralyzed him. Worse, his Water Spout now fell too much in power to kill Ho-Oh, as Lugia finally died to Shadow Ball and Water Spout. It now makes Shaman very scary for Kyogre, and Water Spout is obviously a bad play now. He has to Ice Beam it while Mewtwo finishes off Ho-Oh. It is a razor-thin turn, as Shaman went first and hit Kyogre with Seed Flare. Kyogre did not die, or lose his turn to paralysis using Ice Beam, and Ho-Oh died along with Shaman. But it's now really scary again. Mega Salamence. I don't have a chance to hit with Ice Beam again, so Mewtwo has to do enough to take it down in 2 hits. And when I thought I'd be clever and use Protect on Kyogre to keep Salamence from actually killing him, Paralysis steals my hope. Worse than that, it crit Mewtwo with Earthquake. He somehow didn't die to it, but if it didn't crit, the fight would be mine. It's all worse still when Psystrike didn't do half. Fuck all this. I knew that Ciel was still a bad fight for me. But there was one saving grace. Their Tailwind ended, and mine is still on. Eevee uses Quick Attack, and it does enough that when Mewtwo goes before Salamence, we kill it! Holy fuck, I'm having heart attacks every other fight in this attempt. In a mode where luck takes it all away, this team has enough room to grasp victory. This means we now return to where it all went wrong. Adrian's unexpected singles battle. A fight that all comes down to how I get away from the opening Ninetales. And my decision is to switch in Mewtwo, who should be durable enough for a Dazzling Gleam while not yet being weak to it before Mega Evolving. And the outcome is a nail-biting, terrifying moment when Mewtwo doesn't kill with 1 quad damage Hidden Power Steel, boosted by Fairy Tail Field, but he survives 2 more Dazzling Gleams. He kills Ninetales, but he faints to Hail, and now I have to make a blind switch. I have no more time. If I want to win, I need Eevee to do this while the veil is still up. He goes out, and it's Magearna against him. He survives its Dazzling Gleam to boost, but my veil runs out, and he has barely over half. It's going to be really close. He was faster now! He passes to Kyogre, who takes barely anything from Flash Cannon. Water Spout destroys Magearna, and now it's a matter of watching the magical seeds that give King Shields. First on Tapu Lele. Protect, then Water Spout. Dead. Then on Sylveon, who doesn't have one, but protects itself. Still dead. Then the scariest one, Xerneas. Dead! Finally the one who took away my farthest attempt, Mega Gardevoir. Dead! Yes! We've gotten farther than ever, and there are only the final 4 remaining. I am freaking out, and am terrified of everything, especially the next 2, Titania and Amaria. You may remember me saying that these 2 were part of the 7 leaders that I believed were impossible. I have to hope they are not for just these next few minutes. It sucks that Titania takes over from Adrian for using Fairy Tail Field. Then she starts with Dialga. I start like usual putting up Veil, but I hurt the Steel Dragon with Dazzling Gleam quite a lot before Ninetales faints. Dialga is far too strong to set up against, so Mewtwo must come in and deck it. But this was bringing about her ace, Aegislash, to which Mewtwo remains, unable to hurt it on the first turn because of more magical seeds, and do less than half with 1 Shadow Ball. By then, it Swords Dance and murders Mewtwo easily, but when faced with Groudon, Aegislash can only hide for a turn, then Shadow Sneak for under half, dying to Earthquake. Kartana is on its way, and it's going to have a first turn King Shield as well. Best option at this moment is to Tailwind, though it doesn't kill Talonflame in 1 hit, so I chop it for over half. Groudon is faster than that Ultra Beast fortunately and finishes it, leading into another Necrozma, Duskmane. Groudon will be good here, but it's going to fire off a Z move that kills Groudon. It's imperative that instead, we switch into Kyogre to take it, survive, make a rainbow, then shoot it with a Thunder before dying. And it is now that Eevee is given the chance to set up, as long as we start with Substitute, then Boost. It Swords Dances the first turn, then disintegrates the sub, but the boost makes Eevee able to pass the Groudon, which may seem terrible, but he lives a Photon Geyser. And from this point, Titania cannot fight back. Duskmane dies, as well as Magearna, and even... No. Mega Lucario has Bullet Punch. That only did 20 damage! Nice! One step further. I am just losing my mind again, and fearing the idea that I'd have to do all this again because one fucking bad luck event happens. And who better than to make me sweat buckets about bad luck than Amaria, who has one more opportunity to steal everything because she does a move I can't tolerate. First though, we have to talk about how I overcome the first aspect of this fight. For you see, there are two field effects that prevent weather and other field effects from overtaking them. New World and Underwater. And Amaria has gone underwater for this sequel battle. Underwater, I cannot use Veil. If I stay underwater, winning is impossible. But that brought about a terrible problem. How do I get back to the surface? The first move you may think of is Dive, meaning Kyogre. He cannot hold Dive. All 4 of his slots to this point are all required to be what they are now. This is what I thought was going to end it. But there was a way. I had one move slot that was not being utilized at all. And incredibly, it could be filled with a move that moves the fight to water surface. Fly on Talonflame. If you've been watching carefully, you would have seen Fly in the place of Brave Bird. It is for this fight and this fight only. The start of the fight goes as follows. Throw Mewtwo in front of Greninja. When Mewtwo faints, go to Talonflame, and with one more insanely important use of Gale Wings, use Fly to rise out of the water and clock Greninja hard, but not lethally, and also, this was the only move in my arsenal that had a mischance. Imagine getting to the 16th fight in Boss Rush 2 and missing. Well, I didn't this time, but the move that follows this determines everything. The move that Greninja uses to hit Talonflame. Because I learned the enemy AI does not know what the fuck to do if you're in the invincible turn of a move like Fly. Because of this, it chooses purely randomly. Why else would Greninja then use Spikes? A move that literally fails on water surface. That move could have been Dark Pulse, Surf, or Blizzard. From my testing, Blizzard was actually bad for me, even though it now seals up water surface. The problem is that the enemy order goes completely differently, and I could not manage it. I just needed one of the other 3 moves to have a decent shot. Because Talonflame didn't lose HP, it means he can kill Greninja for free. Now we come up against Tapu Fini. The name of the game in this battle is to get Amaria to send out her own primal Kyogre. The sooner it shows up, the better. If she holds it until last, I lose. Against Tapu Fini, Groudon is actually great because it allows him to avoid its water attack and instead only lose half his HP to Nature's Madness. Incredibly, it also missed once. Groudon only lost half his HP killing Tapu Fini with 2 Solar Beams. But then comes Palkia, who is yet again disgusting to deal with. Now there's another aspect of this fight that needs to happen. I do need to freeze the water eventually, because otherwise she brings out a Mega Swampert that dives. And even defeating as many Pokemon as we have already, Swampert will then wipe me out by itself. Palkia is the best time to do this, and Ninetales never took damage, so she returns. When she does, it is imperative that we use Blizzard first and let the Focus Sash keep us alive. Palkia is faster in the water, but once it freezes over, now Ninetales is faster and can Aurora Veil right before fainting. Plus, Palkia has taken a ton of damage from Ninetales now, leaving it up to Kyogre to Ice Beam it down, fortunately not getting paralyzed by Thunder. Finally, we get what we need. Kyogre is next. To that, with Aurora Veil still alive, we can use Eevee, watching it Calm Mind once, Then it hits him with Origin Pulse. Eevee lives and passes. Groudon takes his place, and the sun appears along with a rainbow. Now we are safe. Solar Beam scours Kyogre from existence, along with Amaria's remaining Keldeo and Mega Swampert. Oh shit, this is real. We have made it to Hardy. Amaria was the last one where things could go wrong in a lot of ways, but I have a pretty solid script ready for Hardy. Just like last time, he leads with Aerodactyl and Gigalith, which ends up ruining my ability to Aurora Veil. However, Aerodactyl won't Mega this time around, making it much less dangerous. But in my script, I say that Ninetales should Blizzard them, but she gets hit with Rock Slide and flinches. So all I actually did was Tailwind. And then Mewtwo Drain Punches Aerodactyl first, but doesn't kill, so its Rock Slide hits Eevee. Eevee didn't flinch! Oh fuck, Gigalith Rock Slide now, and the Sandstorm! Holy shit, please let Eevee pass it! Yes! If Mewtwo wasn't faster than Aerodactyl and killed it with Psystrike, if that was Mega Aerodactyl again, then we would have just lost on Fight 17 right then. Now, the pass is given the boost to Kyogre, and this time, he doesn't get crit by Gigalith on the way in. With Mewtwo here, we are able to outspeed Nihilego with both of mine and break it down, despite its Focus Sash. Deontay and Tyranitar, the Deontay being Mega, are both fodder to Water Spout. And finally Terrakion, also nothing to Primal Kyogre. We are on the last fight of Boss Rush 2, and I want to say, I'm begging the game to let me say, it's done. Because now, I can show you that most ridiculous strategy, which now becomes the final strategy. The way I beat Saphira is nothing short of absurd. This time on Still Dragon's Den, she leads with something almost insurmountable. Dialga. It is so hard to kill and does so much damage that nothing I did was able to break through it without massive losses. Saphira was almost yet another of the leaders whose fight I could not complete. It would have been the very last opponent that would do me in. Except, do you remember how we started Saphira's fight last time? When we baited her Noivern into using moves that we could make fizzle on repeat? What if we did that again, but not only for 2 moves? What if we did that again, but not only for a few turns to make it easy to knock out with 1 attack? Ninetales is out first, and it uses Fire Blast. So I go to Kyogre, and it fizzles. Then it will use Thunder. So we go to Groudon, and it fizzles. And finally, it uses Dragon Pulse. So we return to Ninetales, and at the end of that turn, it takes damage from Hail, and I have taken no damage yet. Now we just do this for 40 turns! We are going to exhaust all of its attacks without any healing items. It will constantly fire attacks that cannot hurt my team, as long as I switch to each teammate correctly. I was shaking and extremely paranoid about making a mistake here. As well, I had to count the cycles, because Dialga has maxed out power points on all of its moves, so there are 8 Fire Blasts and 16 of Thunder and Dragon Pulse. I have to count because I need to know exactly when Fire Blast runs out, so that we change the switch pattern to only Groudon and Ninetales. Otherwise, Kyogre would switch into something that hurts him gravely. But this isn't all. This Dialga's 4th move is the most important part of this strategy, and it also shows how human overcomes computer. Its final move is Stealth Rock, a move that any human player would have hit with the force of a meteor once they saw what I was doing. Instead, Dialga runs out of all of its moves and is down to only Stealth Rock. This is the critical moment, and it has to all be done correctly. Once it has no more attacks, we are sitting on Ninetales, and I must go back to Groudon first. If I go directly to Eevee, then the Hail kills Dialga, who has already taken 16 Hail hits, but because it has an amount of HP not divisible by 16, it survives the Hail with single digits of HP left. If I don't go back to Groudon, then Dialga dies, and setup is impossible. But now, Once Groudon cleared the hail, we can switch to Eevee, who only takes a small amount of damage from Stealth Rock, and now all the Dialga has to do is stay right fucking there. Do not move. Don't move! Just use Stealth Rock over and over, because Eevee has to do the exact 3 moves in order for me to win. He boosts, and he must substitute. And all the while, Dialga foolishly stands there, spamming a hazard that's already on the field. Finally, it's all come together. We do the final pass to Mega Mewtwo X, who is now able to kill Dialga, and there's only one more thing I have to worry about. It's not the Mega Rayquaza that comes next. That's why we put on the substitute. Without it, Mewtwo dies here. Instead, it Dragon Dances and attacks, and only the sub falls, Rayquaza dying to 2 Psy-Strikes. It's the next Pokemon that has the last thing that can potentially stop me, Giratina. Practicing this fight is not something I wanted to do in order to find out if this was completely safe. The single move Giratina can survive a Shadow Ball to use is Will-O-Wisp, and unlike in my testing, it hit me. If it didn't, then the fight is won. Now, I'm so afraid. For the next Pokemon out is the one that this burn matters for, Kyurem. I have to Drain Punch it, and without the burn, it's a one-shot. But with the burn, it isn't. Drain Punch brought it down 3/4, restoring my HP, but a Fusion Flare fires at Mewtwo. He lived! Drain Punch down Kyurem, Shadow Ball Ultra Necrozma, and Psy-Strike Nagana Dow. Boss Rush 2, the hardest challenge in Pokemon Reborn, is complete. I have done it! I never expected this. Never. When I beat Reborn last time, I looked at the Boss Rush, learned about Boss Rush 2, and said, that's impossible for me. Look at me now. It's done! Not only that, we leave the final battle of Boss Rush 2 with my entire team standing. None of them fainted. They all stand with me. There is nothing more difficult than this in Reborn. We have conquered everything the game prepared. We are truly on the top of the mountain. Thus, we bring this episode, the penultimate episode, to a close. Next time, come back for the series finale, where we look back at how we got here and give thanks and congratulations to the ones behind it all.